Hello, and welcome to the Sleepless Physicist. I'm glad you found your way here. You settle where the fabric knows your shape. The pillow is a cool shoreline, the night air a slow tide against your cheek, and somewhere between your ribs and the quilt there is a small, steady glow that answers only to breath. You are safe here. You can unravel. Nothing is urgent. This is for relaxation and wonder, not medical advice. Rest how you need to. Let those words be a soft boundary, a gentle fence around the garden of this hour, so your thoughts can wander without leaving the path. You notice the room the way a lighthouse notices fog, not with sight, but with rhythm, the low hum of something faithful in the corner, the cotton rustle when you drift a fraction deeper into comfort, the way the room seems to have edges only when you breathe in and then loses them again with the exhale. You can feel the map of the mattress, the small valleys where the day let go, the little hollows where worry used to sit. It is quieter now. It is kinder now. Tonight, something quietly astonishing. A secret that is not a secret at all, only a truth that prefers to speak softly. The universe holds its lanterns, their bright spirals, their slow rivers of stars, on a skeleton you cannot see. Not fiction, but truth. Not fear, but hush. Not ticking, but flowing. Let those opposites hold you like a balanced bowl. You don't have to choose between wonder and rest. You can have both, and they will lean toward each other like two tired friends who decide to share a blanket. You may feel your hand rising and falling on your chest, the way a small boat rises and falls on water. It didn't ask for and doesn't need to command. You are that small boat, and also the water. You are the lantern, and also the dark that carries it. If that sounds impossible, let it be music instead of math. Your breath is the metronome, and time is not a grid of boxes, but a low note in the walls. Not ticking, but flowing. A question arrives like a moth touching glass and then pausing. What holds the light when light can't hold itself? Leave it ajar, like a door to a balcony you might step through later. There is no rush to answer. The act of wondering is already enough. The question is a lantern on the path. It will wait. It will glow. You are not alone in this room. Beyond your ceiling, roofs lift like black sails across the city. Beyond them, the sky keeps its patient distances. And beyond even that, there is a lattice you cannot name with eyes closed, a threadwork finer than frost at dawn. It holds more than you can count and asks for nothing in return. Feel how your shoulders loosen when you imagine being part of that, because you are. If it comforts you, share where you are within this map. Where are you listening from, and what time glows on your clock? The numbers can be a shoreline too, a quiet stretch where the tide that is your day finally releases its grip. A small confession to the night. Here I am, at this hour, letting go. What if most of what holds you tonight cannot be seen? Breathe. Let the thought be a pebble falling into a dark lake. The rings widen and then become the lake itself. You do not chase them, you are carried by them. You may feel the first yawn loosen the door between waking and drifting. You may feel the tiny muscles around your eyes soften as if they have remembered a childhood game they once loved and now have permission to set down. And in that permission, there is room for a second image to arrive, gentle and weightless. You are also a traveler, small as a thimble, nestled in a warm capsule. The window fogs when you breathe, a round ghost your lantern sketched on glass. The capsule is not racing. It is simply keeping company with distance. The capsule sits inside a lofted roof, and the roof sits inside a street of sleeping windows, and the street sits inside a city that drowses inside a galaxy, nesting dolls of quiet, each one holding the next with a patience that feels like gravity in a kinder language. The words are simple, but they land with a softness that matters. You are welcome here. You are welcome to be exactly as you are. If a thought knocks at the door, It can be a visitor, not a judge. If a memory floats up, it can be a leaf turning once in a slow current and then finding its own way to the bank. You do not have to catch it. You do not have to name it. It is enough to feel the cool edge of the pillow and the warm edge of the blanket and the place where they meet like horizon. It is enough to hear the low appliance hum writing its long, unbroken line across the dark. It is enough to be carried. There is a rhythm to this night, and you can borrow it. Every so often, a question will arrive, or a whisper fact, or a soft hand on your shoulder that reminds you to breathe. These are not interruptions. They are the tide. They arrive every little while to keep the story drowsy and the mind curious in the gentlest way. Curiosity is not the enemy of sleep. Sharpness is, and nothing here is sharp. Each edge is rounded like a pebble that has spent a long time being held and turned by the sea. Imagine your chest from the inside, lantern lit, a small room with curved walls. Every inhale, the lantern brightens, silver, blue, or gold, and every exhale it dims to an ember that never goes out. You don't have to choose a color. One may choose you, silver like moon on quiet water, blue like the hour before dawn admits it is morning, gold like a secret kept by a trusted friend. Color is a feeling more than a word, and feeling is the only map you need tonight. The unseen skeleton above the roofs is not here to be solved. It is here to be felt as kin. The way your ribs cradle breath is the way halos cradle galaxies. The way your mattress holds your weight is the way an invisible web holds world after world after world. You do not have to measure it to belong to it. Belonging is older than measurement. Wonder is older than names. In this room, your name is safe. In this story, your name doesn't have to work. The night will do the lifting, and when the thought returns, what holds the light when light can't hold itself? Smile at it like an old friend you trust to walk beside you while saying nothing at all. Some questions are blankets. Some answers are doors. You don't need to open to know what is on the other side. If your breath has slowed, let it slow again. If your hands have grown warm, let them rest like stones at the bottom of a clear stream. If your eyes feel heavy, that is the night offering to carry their weight. This is not a test. This is a lullaby that knows your name without calling it. This is a path through the dark that needs no lantern because the lantern is already under the blanket, inside your chest, bright enough to guide you and soft enough to let you sleep. Let your breath arrive like a tide that never argues. In, a shoreline appears. Out, the shoreline smooths. You don't have to guide it. You can simply notice it the way a window notices rain, by the sound more than the sight. If words grow heavy, let them sink. If silence floats up, let it rest beside you. You are not required to perform tonight. You are invited to be carried. You can feel how the day lingers in the smallest places, a knot by the shoulder blade, a thin wire behind the eyes. Imagine the wire slackening as if time itself loosened a notch. Shoulders release a fraction. Jaw softens. Tongue rests like a quiet leaf at the bottom of a clear cup. When the body remembers how to be simple, thoughts often remember how to be kind, and kindness is a door that opens without a sound. There is a gentle ritual here, a way of turning solitude into a constellation. If it feels easy, breathe once, then tell the night where you are on its slow spinning map. Share your city and the clock that glows beside you. Not a speech, just two small stars, a place and a time. Somewhere, someone will read those stars and feel less alone in their own dark. You are part of a map of bedtime, traced by whispers and lamplight, by tea steam and quiet kitchens, by dorm rooms and night trains and quiet cabins and living rooms, lit only by the soft face of a screen, a living sky of listeners, astonishing and yet humble as breath. What if most of what binds that sky together cannot be seen? What if connection prefers the private roots, heart to breath, to thread to world? Breathe. Feel the exhale soften your edges. You don't have to hold yourself rigidly when the night is willing to hold you. Your thoughts may wander to little errands that never got crossed off, to names that carry a tug, to rooms you will enter tomorrow. Let them pass like boats you watch from a bridge. They have destinations. You have the bridge, and the bridge does not follow every boat. The bridge is allowed to stand still and listen to the river move beneath it. You are allowed to be the bridge. Tonight's promise remains warm and unhurried, something quietly astonishing. Not fireworks, not spectacle, a truth that is steadier than light, a scaffold under brightness, a pattern that prefers to be felt rather than announced. The unseen can be a comfort when it is shaped like care, and this unseen is shaped like care. Not fiction, but truth. Not fear, but hush. Ticking, but flowing. The cadence is not decoration. It is the bed frame of the night. Simple, sturdy, soft to the touch. Someone in another time zone is also listening. A minute ahead, an hour behind. Their window showing a different slice of the same turning world. You and they are both inside a larger room you can't see, the way syllables are inside a song they didn't have to write. You are threaded. That word arrives and chooses you, threaded through with a quiet that does not break when you look at it. You can look, and it stays. A question returns with a friendlier face. What holds the light when light can't hold itself? Perhaps the answer does not live in a single point, but in the curve around that point. Perhaps holding is sometimes a shape, rather than a hand. You don't need to decide. Let the question be a small moon rising. You can feel its pull without naming its craters. You are lying here, and you are also somehow traveling. The room moves with the planet. The planet drifts through space. Space itself is part of a motion that does not ask your permission because it does not need it. You are included by default. Inclusion without effort. Imagine that becoming your default for rest. You are already on the boat. You don't have to find the dock. The river is under you and will remain under you even as you sleep. If a restless edge appears, touch it with attention, the way you might touch the rim of a glass. Lightly, curiously, no force. Attention is sometimes enough to turn a restlessness into a ripple, and ripples belong to lakes, and lakes belong to nights like this. Even worry can be part of a wider water, and water knows how to carry what it touches. You can borrow a rhythm. Inhale to the count of quiet. Exhale to the count of quieter. Again, again. And if numbers feel like stones, replace them with colors. Silver, blue, gold. Lantern inhale, ember exhale. The mind loves a gentle job. Let it repeat this one until repetition becomes music, and music becomes background, and background becomes sleep's first meadow. If you like, breathe a small message into the dark for everyone tracing our quiet map. May your night be soft. May your room be kind. May your edges round like sea glass in a slow tide. You don't have to send it far. The act of wishing is already a warmer blanket for your own chest. Generosity has a way of turning back into breath. Now ask yourself softly, without needing an answer, what if most of what holds you tonight cannot be seen? What if the strongest parts of your shelter are the ones without names? What if the quiet that counts you is older than any clock you own? Notice how your body hears these questions and responds without language. A sigh that wasn't planned, a lengthening behind the knees, the way the lower back eases as if the mattress learned a new kindness in the last few seconds. In the distance of your mind, the tiny capsule you imagined earlier hums its low, contented hum. Its window fogs and clears with each breath. You are not steering. You are being escorted. Now around you is the larger room of the night, and around that is another room you will visit later in this story, where the lanterns of whole star rivers rest in a net that asks for no praise. Nesting dolls of calm. You inside a room, inside a city, inside a galaxy, inside a web you'll feel before you ever try to picture it. And that is enough. If you haven't yet, and it feels gentle to do so, Offer the night your two little stars, where you are and what time is written on your clock. Let them join the constellation of quiet replies. The comment can wait for morning if that's kinder. The knowledge that others are breathing beside you across oceans can arrive now. No urgency, only options. Tonight, you don't have to prove you are worthy of sleep. Sleep is not a prize. It is a place, and places don't ask for reasons at the door. They open when you arrive, the way the body opens when it remembers to trust, the way the sky opens when it remembers. It is not just the canvas for light, but also the home for all that carries it. Light does not need to grip anything to be held. Sometimes a path cradles it without touching. Curve more than cord, welcome more than weight. Keep that as a shape in your pocket, the way you might keep a smooth stone there during a long walk. A reminder you are allowed to lean without falling, to rest without asking. If your eyelids grow heavy, let them. If a yawn comes, let it take its time. If nothing much happens, that too is a kind of progress. Still water is also water. You are doing it right because there is no wrong way to be held by the night. You show up, you breathe, you let the edges blur. The rest is the rest. Let the night do the organizing. Let it sort the small from the large, the urgent from the true. Your job is easier than it ever is in daylight. Breathe and allow, breathe and be carried. Even the idea of effort can fall asleep at your side, like a pet that finally stops pacing and dreams with its paws twitching in place. There is a kindness in repetition. The body trusts what returns without demand. So the soft cadence returns. Not fiction, but truth. As not fear, but hush. Not ticking, but flowing. Let those phrases move through you, like a tide that has learned your shore. With each pass, they smooth your thinking sand, rounding what was jagged, covering what was raw, revealing the small shells of wonder you didn't know were waiting beneath. If a thought rises and insists it cannot be put down, give it a cushion. Say to it quietly, "You can sit here by the bed and listen with me. The room is big enough for one more breath, and the breath is big enough for one more thought." The strange secret is that thoughts grow drowsy when they feel welcomed. They stop knocking when the door is already open. You are allowed to let them be near without letting them steer. From time to time, a question will glide back like a slow gull following a moonlit current. What holds the light when light can't hold itself? Each return is gentler. Each pass leaves less ripple. You don't chase it with answers. You watch it angle its wing, ride the lift, and vanish into the dark that is not empty. The dark that is a kind of hand made of curve, a cradle that is also a path. You can notice how the body learns this shape. The inhale is the rise of the wing. The exhale is the long glide. The pauses are the still space where choice becomes unnecessary. The night is teaching you without instruction. You are learning without trying. You are being shown that holding can be a way of shaping rather than gripping, that safety can be a curve rather than a wall. Far above your roof, far and yet somehow immediate, lanterns of whole rivers of stars keep their places not by clinging, but by listening to the shape around them. There is an unseen skeleton, a quiet lattice, a web that hums so low the ears cannot hear it, and yet the heart recognizes the song. You belong to the same music. Your breath is written in the same key. The score is older than clocks, older than names. A tenderness that prefers to act rather than speak. A simple ritual can be a bridge. If it feels effortless, you can let the question from earlier become your tiny message in a bottle. Where are you listening from, and what time glows on your clock? The words need not leave your lips. The act of noticing place and hour is enough. In naming them, you sketch yourself on the quiet map we share. You become a star the others can find, and in finding you, they also find themselves. The whole sky steadies when one more light agrees to glow. If you sense the day trying to resume its posture inside you, shift back to smallness, smaller than plans, smaller than outcomes, the size of a breath, the size of warmth under a blanket, the size of the capsule window that fogs and clears with every exhale, small enough to be held, small enough to rest. Within that smallness you are infinite, because the infinite is composed of very small things that agree to keep breathing together. Imagine your edges softening the way frost softens grass. No heat, no hurry, just presence. The mattress becomes a shoreline again, shaping itself to your contours as if it had been practicing your name all day, and now pronounces it perfectly. Your shoulders are stones that have forgotten sharpness. Your hands learn stillness that is not forced, only found. There is a lake between your collarbones and your navel, and the surface is so calm that stars could be counted on it if counting didn't require looking away from calm. Another whisper fact arrives, not to wake you, only to join the hum. More of reality is dark than bright, and yet the bright tells you where the dark is. Your mind understands, your body agrees. Both decide to do nothing with the information except become softer. Knowledge that does not demand action becomes a pillow. You are allowed to have pillows made of understanding. They support without insisting. They cradle without crowding. From here, the path continues as a rhythm you can trust. Time and again, a question or a quiet address will arrive to brush your attention like a fingertip passing over tall grass. Not to stir you, only to remind you that you are walking in a field and not a hallway. Fields welcome wandering. Hallways demand direction. Tonight you are in the field. Every breath is a step. Every step is a return. Every return is a softening. You can let your awareness float upward through the ceiling, through the night roof, through the cool dark that smells like distance. But you don't have to leave the bed to travel. The traveling is in the letting go, the way a leaf travels when the river is doing the work, the way light travels when a curve is doing the holding, the way you travel when the story is doing the carrying. No one is keeping score. There is nothing to accomplish. Even sleep is not a task. It is a place that will come to you when your doors open and the porch light is low and kind. You have already turned that light on by breathing the way you are breathing now, steady, unforced, subtle as a tide that has chosen a shoreline and is loyal to it for the night. And now the image that will follow you gently through the rest of this story returns to sit where it first sat. Your chest is a lantern under the blanket. Each inhale brightens it, silver, blue, or gold, and each exhale lets it settle back to a warm ember that refuses to go out. You never have to pick the color. The color can pick you anew each breath. Silver, when memory feels like moonlight. Blue, when quiet has depth. Gold, when safety arrives like sunlight under a door. Whichever comes is right because it came. Whichever stays is right because it stayed. Tonight, something quietly astonishing is already happening. Not a reveal with corners and labels, but a companionship with curves and patience. The unseen skeleton above the roofs is not separate from the ease below them. Both are ways the world holds what it loves, and it loves more than you know. It holds more than you can count, and you are among the things it holds. When the next soft question arrives, greet it without moving. When the next whisper fact brushes past, let it join the hum. When the next breath brightens the lantern, notice and forget in the same moment. Noticing is enough. Forgetting is also enough. The night knows the difference and approves of both. Rest here, with the hum, with the tide, with the lantern you carry without carrying, with the question that leans but does not press, with the promise that asks nothing of you except to be present while it keeps itself. Rest here and let the rest of the story come to meet you at the pace of your breathing. Slow, slower, slowest, soft, softer, softest. You want to be held by something larger than thought. You want rest to arrive without being chased, like rain finding its way to the roots. You are here because the day has edges, and you are ready for curves. So let the night offer you its quiet scaffold, the kindness that works without asking to be seen. You are safe in this room. You are safe in this story. The slow tide of your shoulders dropping is already proof that safety can be a sensation before it is an idea. Most of what steadies you is invisible to your voice. The way trust lives in the spaces between words, the way sleep arrives not by force, but by permission, the way breath returns even when you forget to invite it. And the universe, gentle and vast, practices the same art. Most of what steadies its bright spirals is hidden, not from cruelty, but from glare, not noise, but note, not chaos, but choreography. If you listen with the soft part of your attention, you can feel the pattern more than see it, and feeling is enough tonight. Imagine the mind as a room that sometimes loops its own hallway. Exam nights when pages turn but nothing lands. Jet-lagged flights when your body's clocks don't greet each other at the door. Long-haul quiet where the cabin dark hums and you count exits to pass the time. These are familiar turbulences, yes, but even in them, something steadier carries you, an unseen frame that keeps your lantern from tipping. Call it the night's skeleton, compassionate as ribs that cradle breath without applause. You are never required to measure your ribcage for it to protect you. You are never required to measure the cosmos for it to hold you. Tonight, dark matter is not a puzzle you must solve. It is a companionship you can lean into. Let the word be a blanket rather than a blackboard. Dark, not as absence, but as privacy. Matter, not as burden, but as body. A body of kindness around bodies of light. This is not fiction, but truth, and the truth prefers to arrive with warm hands, not ticking, but flowing, not argument, but lullaby, not proof, but presence. You can hear your own life in the background sounds, plumbing that never rushes, a far car passing, the faint hinge of the building breathing with you. These are the low instruments of your personal orchestra, the ones that keep time while you forget time. And if you step out beyond the roofline with your imagining, another orchestra is playing, galaxies spinning their long, slow waltzes. When astronomers count the dancers, the music is still stronger than the dancers you can count. The arms whirl too fast for the visible partners, and yet they do not fly apart. Something more than seen is keeping tempo, something like a hand you cannot see, which is really a shape you cannot see, a curve doing the holding. You know this already in your own body, when fear loosens without an explanation, when a knot in your back unhooks after a breath that felt ordinary, when a piece of news you were dreading arrives, and you discover that under the first wave there is a floor. That floor did not materialize at the moment of crisis. It was always there. You stood on it without knowing its name. So it is with the night's skeleton above you, an old generosity, a readiness to hold, a patience that does not sign its work. Listen, without straining, to the thought that comes like a feather. More of the universe is dark than bright, and yet the bright is how you learn the dark is there. The stars tell you about what holds them, the way your ease tells you about what holds you. You don't need numbers for this to be real tonight. You need only breath. Breathe in and let more be a word that widens the room. Breathe out and let bright be a word that softens edges. The fact does not wake you. It tucks you in. Knowledge, when it arrives as a kindness, becomes a pillow. Put your head on it. Rest. You are safe in this room. You are safe in this story. Hear how that lands in the body. The soft click inside your jaw when it unhooks from the day. The shoulders lowering by a whisper's width. The chest remembering it can move without being told. Reassurance is not decoration here. It is architecture. It is the beam under the floorboards, the one you never see but learn to trust by the way the house doesn't creak in the wind. And if the mind asks for a metaphor, it can walk around in. Give it a dance floor, light as dancers, space as music, mass as the hall that sets the steps. The music is stronger than the dancers you can count. The hall is wider than the steps you can see, and you, quiet, breathing, are part of that hall. You do not have to perform. You only have to be present, not striving but staying, not mastering but melting, not fixing but floating. Let the promise be simple. You will not be asked to think hard to be held well. You are already inside the holding. The benevolent architecture is both cosmic and intimate. It keeps spiral arms from flying apart and keeps your thoughts from scattering past the reach of rest. Different scales, same kindness. You can trust a framework you cannot name because your whole life has trained you for it. You trust sleep without memorizing its steps. You trust breath without explaining its chemistry. You can trust the night's skeleton without seeing its bones. If you want, ask yourself softly, what if the friendliest forces are the ones that do not ask to be noticed? And answer yourself even more softly. The noticing is a gift, not a duty. You can drift and still be accompanied. You can loosen and still be held. You can close your eyes and still be guided by the curve that knows how to carry light and therefore knows how to carry you. There is a train somewhere beyond your block, carving a line through distance with a sound so patient it feels like a hand on the shoulder. There is a siren somewhere in a different quarter of the city, far enough to be mostly memory before it arrives. These markers come and go, and each time they fade, you notice that your attention has moved inward by a breath's width. You are safe in this room. You are safe in this story. The world can keep its errands for later. Your part is only to be here while the quiet does its work. Most nights carry a tangle of small threads, conversations you replay, corners of tasks you meant to round, the little shiver of anticipation that keeps opening the door to tomorrow. You don't have to cut those threads. You can let them slacken. There is a bigger thread underneath, and it does not fray. Call it the night's skeleton if that helps, the gentle frame beneath brightness. Your ribcage does not argue with breath. It simply makes room and keeps its shape. The unseen in you is already compassionate. That same compassion is written into the larger room above the roofs. The thought returns in a kinder form. More of this universe is unlit than lit, and yet the lit teaches you where the unlit is, like footprints filled with tide water telling you about the tide, like the way your ease tells you there is a floor. You do not have to chase after the dark with lanterns. You learn it by listening to light, not noise but note, not chaos but choreography, words meant to be breathed, not solved. Sometimes rest pretends it needs a reason, a perfect pillow, a completed list, a body without aches. But the deeper part of you remembers that rest arrives when it is welcomed, not when it is earned. You have already started welcoming it by making space in the jaw, by letting the shoulders take the hint, by allowing the eyes to be heavy without explanation. These are the ways you say yes without speaking. These are the ways that unseen takes the lead. You can borrow another metaphor and let it dissolve on the tongue like a lozenge. Imagine a dance whose music is stronger than the dancers you can count. The steps hold together, even where the visible partners seem too few. The pattern persists because the room itself is conducting. That is how spirals keep their arms, not by clutching, but by listening to the shape of the floor. And you tonight can listen to the shape of your breath and let it conduct your thoughts toward wider arcs and slower turns. In the quiet between sounds, something simple arrives as a featherlight truth. You are not still. Even now, you move through time, not metaphorically, literally. The bed moves with the planet with its path, your cells with their soft chores, movement without effort, belonging without performance. Let that be your permission slip. You are already participating in the grandest physics simply by being. There is nothing to add. There is only the relief of noticing what was always true. Let every reassurance land like a warm stone settling in clear water. You are safe in this room. You are safe in this story. The slow tide of your shoulders dropping. The soft click inside your jaw when it unhooks from the day. The way the chest widens on its own when the mind gives it the smallest nod. These are not tricks. They are recognitions. The body is good at this. The body has never forgotten the craft of settling. Sometimes the mind just needs to be reminded that it can trust the floor. And if a flicker of doubt lifts its head, what if letting go means losing track? Answer it with gentleness. Letting go here is not absence, it is alignment, like setting a cup exactly where the table already waits, like aligning your breath with the rhythm that has been happening all night. You are not abandoning yourself, you are joining yourself, not avoidance, but acceptance, not shrinking, but softening. The difference matters, and your body knows it the instant you give it a chance. When the far train passes again, you may notice it as a smaller sound than before. Your inner room has grown. The walls have moved outward. Turbulence takes up less space inside a larger sky. Dark matter is a name some use for the larger sky that holds the lanterns. You do not need the name to feel the holding. Call it the friendly frame, the quiet scaffold, the curve that carries. Names are labels on the jar. Comfort is the honey inside. You can imagine yourself as a listener at the edge of a long hall. Music flows, even when you stop trying to hear it, and the relief is in realizing that the music does not require your attention to keep existing. What steadies you keeps steadying whether you watch or not. Trust does not tire because you blink. The frame does not loosen because you yawn. The night's skeleton has a patience older than any worry you could bring to it. Let that age be an inheritance. Let it be the old, good furniture in the house where you rest. Now, if it feels easy, turn your attention to what is actually touching your ears. Which sound is the softest where you are right now? The fan breathing, the distant car, the heartbeat you hear more than feel, the clock that does not tick so much as breathe with you. Pick the gentlest one and place it beside you, like a companion. No conversation required. Just proximity, just the comfort of a quiet presence that makes the room feel more like a room. Let the mind sit down in the soft chair of your breath. Let it stop standing in the doorway asking whether it should stay or go. You can stay, you can go. Either way, you are carried. The carrying is the point. The carrying has been happening since long before you learned the word for it. Call it the friendly frame. Call it the curve that holds. Call it nothing at all and feel it anyway. Most of your life's important helpers are shy. They prefer to work in the wings. The way memory returns a name just after you stop trying. The way forgiveness warms the room a day after the argument has fallen silent. The way trust in your own body arrives as a small yes where a no used to live. These helpers do not burst through doors. They wait, and by waiting, they make space. Dark matter feels like that. Waitful, patient, effective in silence. Not noise, but note. Not chaos, but choreography. Imagine a spiral of stars, lanterns moving in a slow, impossible waltz. When you count partners, there are too few for such a sweeping turn, and yet the arms do not fly apart. The music is stronger than the dancers you can count. Something more than visible is keeping time. You understand this in your bones without seeing the ledger. You understand it the way you understand how your ribcage keeps room for breath you haven't yet taken. A promise built into structure, kindness written in architecture. You may remember nights when your thoughts spun faster than comfort, when you tried to pin each one like a paper note to a board, lists multiplying into lists, and then a different choice appeared, to step back from the board and feel the wall behind it, to lean, to let the weight be shared. That leaning was a lesson your body taught you. Scaffolding can be trusted. You did not see it with your eyes. You felt it with your back. This is how the cosmos reminds you of itself, by offering the relief of leaning into what you cannot see, discovering it is there, steady as ever. More of reality is dark than bright, and yet the bright is how you learn. The dark is there. The stars tell you about their holding, the way your ease tells you about yours. Hold the thought like a warm cup. No argument in it, only a temperature that suits the hands. Set it down when you wish. It will stay warm until you return. Truths that are friendly do not cool when you rest. You are not still. Even now, you move through time, not metaphorically, literally. There is a river beneath your raft, and it has been flowing your entire life. You do not have to row. You have never had to row to move with time. Tonight, let that be your model for rest. You do not make the river, you accompany it. You are already good at this. You have been practicing without knowing. Practice is another word for living. Listen again to the body's small confirmations, the slow tide of your shoulders dropping, the soft click inside your jaw when it unhooks from the day, the way the breath settles into a longer line as if it found a wider page. Reassurance travels faster than thought when you let the body answer first. And because the body is honest, its answers teach the mind where to sit. The mind takes the seat and discovers it is comfortable. Comfort that does not have to be proved becomes trust. Trust scales from the room to the street to the sky. If the universe can rest in its unseen scaffolding, halos around spirals, web around clusters, then you can rest in yours. Your routines, your breath, your quiet friendships, your own word kept to yourself. You do not need to see every beam to trust the house. You know it holds because you feel the floor under your feet. You feel the bed under your back. You feel the peace under your thinking. The unseen is not a gap. It is the ground. Sometimes your attention will drift to the old turbulence. Exam nights, jet-lagged flights, the long-haul quiet where the aisle lights never fully go out. Remember how even then something ushered you through hours. You did not know how to cross. Memory is a witness. You have been carried before. It will happen again. It is happening now. You can let the usher do the ushering. You can let the curve do the holding. You can let the music be stronger than the dancers you can count. If worry returns with its clipboard, let it make a brief inventory of the room, and then let it yawn. Inventories get sleepy in soft light. Invite it to sit in the last chair by the window. The far train will pass, and sign the silence with a small signature. The distant siren will smudge into the general night. The appliance hum will write its line that never stops. The room will keep being a room without supervision. Relief is sometimes the recognition that supervision is optional. And now, as the breath draws a longer arc, let a simple promise land. If the universe can trust its unseen scaffolding, you can trust yours. If the galaxies can lean into their halos, you can lean into your ribs. If the cosmic web can keep its lanterns, you can keep your light. You do not have to earn this. You have it because you belong to it. Belonging precedes understanding. Rest precedes explanation. Sleep precedes the reasons you will invent for why it came. When you are ready, let a small awareness enter the ear like a feather. What's the softest sound in your room right now? The fan's breath, the distant car, the heartbeat you hear more than feel, the clock that flows instead of ticks. Choose one and let it sit beside you, like a friend who knows how to be quiet. You don't have to tell anyone your choice. Simply knowing you chose is enough. The choosing is a way of saying yes to being here, now, held by what you can hear and what you can't. Rest, lean, trust the curve. Let the unseen do its beautiful, ordinary work while you do yours, which is only this: breathe, soften, drift. You walk the edge of night the way foam walks the edge of shore, slow, sure, silver when it wants to be seen, dark when it wants to be quiet. The sand remembers you for a moment and then forgets you on purpose. Your footprints fill, smooth, vanish. Not erasure, but a lesson in how curves resolve themselves. Gravity here is not a number. It is the patient tide repeating its soft sentence until even your thoughts begin to rhyme with it. The air is salt cool. The world is sound first and picture second. A hush that carries 1,000 tiny languages. Grain against grain, breath against mouth, sleeve against wrist. You notice how the ocean steers shells and leaves without touching them. How a path can be made by pressure alone. How surrender is sometimes the most accurate navigation. The current is a kind of hand that never closes. A cradle made of motion. A guidance that would rather sing than speak. You are not required to explain this. You are simply asked to feel it. Your body understands, ankles finding their angle in the slope of wet sand, lungs adjusting to a sky that smells like night metal and distant rain, the heart taking its cue from water's tempo, not ticking, but flowing. You are tide taut without trying, and because you are tide taut, you are also sky ready. The story is already widening, even as your steps stay small. If sight can miss an ocean at night, what else can daylight miss? Ask it softly. Let the question float exactly where the foam floats, at the seam between what you can count and what you can trust. Answers are impatient when asked loudly. They are generous when you whisper, wait, breathe. A hint arrives the way phosphorescence does when the wave breaks just right. What holds does not always glow. You carry that hint back with you, not in your hands, but in your rhythm. The shoreline keeps walking inside your chest after you turn away, and now the rug is the sand, the room is the shore, the dark is the same companion in a different coat. You are under a blanket, palm resting over your heart, and you feel an inner tide marking time on the inside of your ribs. Lift, fall, arrival, release. Your body writes crescent shapes on the invisible beach of your attention, then smooths them with the next exhale. You are being guided by pressure and curve again, and again you do not need to command it. Touch the sheet with your fingertips. Feel its grain. The weave is a quiet map under your hand. Threads crossing, threads yielding, threads receiving your weight without complaint. This is the first lesson of fabric. Paths can bend without breaking. Curves can carry without visible hands. Your breath finds the same weave and slips between its threads, and you discover that softness is a structure, not a lack. You can lean on it. You are leaning already. You become small enough to fit inside a thimble-sized craft, the kind that is nothing but window and hum. A seed with a heartbeat. You drift between lanterns so distant they forget to be stars and become a gentle dusting of possibility. No hurry, no steering. The river that is not water carries you across a darkness that is not empty. The capsule fogs when you breathe and clears when you wait. The whole journey is a conversation between warmth and glass. You are not trying to arrive. You are discovering that arrival is always happening, molecule by molecule. You are a passenger of patience. Meanwhile, without leaving the bed, you are drawing the edges of your room by breath alone. Inhale to the corner above your left shoulder. Exhale along the ceiling to the corner above your right. Inhale down the wall to the right-hand floor. Exhale along the baseboard to the left. An invisible square traced by lungs and attention. The body loves simple geometry. It calms when it can count without numbers. It trusts the path when the path fits inside a single minute. Again, softer. Again, slower, soft. The shoreline returns, then the room, then the capsule, micro to macro, macro to micro. The switches happen like blinking. Automatics, helpful, gentle. You are learning a new way to pay attention that does not snap or seize. You are letting awareness be tidal. When it goes out to the far web of lights, it returns with fewer angles. When it comes back to the ribcage's warm cove, it brings stars it forgot to drop. Both directions are right. Both are rest. The sky outside your roof is another ocean. The stars are leaves on its grand current. Sometimes they appear to hold their places, but only because you are watching from the beach of a moment. Underneath, there is a drift so wide that language can only bow to it. No equations here. Only river, only fabric, only a cello note that makes your walls hum at midnight when the city finally remembers how to breathe. You are tuned to that note, whether or not you can name it. You feel the room agree. You feel your breath agree. You feel sleep beginning to agree. You don't have to decide which image is truer. Truth has room for all of them when it moves at this speed. The ocean steering shells, the fabric receiving your hand, the capsule trusting the river without a rudder, the cello tone that holds a house together better than nails. You are an instrument that plays itself when tuned, and breath is the tuning fork. Touch the fork to your sternum. Listen. There it is. The note that says you are already part of the pattern you thought you had to hunt. Which image felt warmer, shoreline current or starlit thread? Let the answer be a single word if you want to offer it. Let it be a color if words are busy. Let it be a feeling if color is asleep. The point is not to choose correctly. The point is to notice that choosing is soft when you are held. Choosing can be part of resting. Quiet preference is a lullaby too, as the tide inside you keeps its small covenant. Rise, fall, rest. You can carry one more hint with you into the deepening drift. The ocean held the shells without showing its hands. Maybe your night holds your worries the same way. Maybe release is not a task list, but a current. You place a thought on the water, and the water does what water does. It carries. It finds the wider place. It returns as calm. You do less, and the world does more. This has always been the bargain. Tonight, you remember? You keep the ocean in your ears, while the room gathers around you like a shawl. Somewhere the tide is still doing its slow arithmetic, adding shore to shore, subtracting nothing. In here, breath answers with its own quiet math. You let the two rhythms lean on each other until they become one, outside, inside, sea chest, wave sucks rise. They agree so easily, you wonder why you ever asked them to be separate. If sight can miss an ocean at night, what else can daylight miss? Ask again, softer. The question is not a key. It is a feather that shows which way the hidden wind moves. You feel a draft in the dark and you know something passed. What holds does not always glow. The truth returns like foam, different edges, same whiteness, then melts back into the water that carried it here. You don't chase, you consent. The floor remembers your footsteps the way the shore remembered your prints, only for a moment and kindly. You cross the room without leaving it, tracing a new shape by breath. This time, a circle. Inhale one arc, exhale the next, rounding the air until the corners relax their shoulders. The mind loves circles because circles don't insist on starting points. Any place is a beginning if you decide it is. Any place is a rest if you decide to stay. Beneath your palm, the lantern heart keeps its tide. You can feel the low tug that pulls on the thin beach of your ribs. The coast here is intimate, and the sea is within you. Lift, fall, the wordless hospitality of lungs. You notice how each inhale writes a half moon on the inside, and each exhale smooths it, a shoreline that edits itself in kindness. Grammar of the body, punctuation of calm. Touch the sheet with your fingertips again. Slow, slower. Notice how the weave accepts your presence without needing to change. You are not pushing thread aside. You are joining it. The fabric is a small map for a larger clue you'll meet later, how paths can bend without force. For now, let the lesson be tactile, not named. Your skin learns before your thought does. Learning without labels is the original kind. It stays. Your thimblecraft drifts on. You watch the starlight through glass that fogs and clears with each breath. The window writes your rhythm and then erases it. A conversation between warmth and world. You aren't steering because there is nothing to navigate around, only through. The river that is not water does not ask for choices, only for trust. Your trust is not hard work. It is the absence of work. It is the comfort of realizing you are already in motion, already on your way, already within the current that knows the valley better than any map. And when you glance outward, the sky is no longer points, but threads. Faint roads where faint caravans once passed, leaving brightness where their wheels pressed space. You can't prove this to your eyes, but your body is nodding, not with facts, but with recognition. The cello note that sometimes lives in the walls finds your bones again. There is a hum that isn't sound, a pressure that isn't push, a guidance that isn't command. The room agrees. Your breath agrees. Yes becomes the easiest word you know. You practice a small craft that calms without trying, naming 3 textures by touch: sheet, skin, air, then 3 temperatures: pillow cool, breath warm, night neutral, then 3 weights: head heavy, jaw lighter, thoughts weightless. The brain is busy but kind. Give it simple beads to count, and it will make you a rosary of rest. Every bead is a return. Every return is softer than the last. If sight can miss an ocean at night, what else can daylight miss? It might miss the way release is often a current, not a decision. The way a worry set gently on moving water will begin to move of its own accord. The way a room can hold you even when your back doesn't touch the wall. The way an unseen frame can keep galaxies in their turns and let you feel less responsible for keeping the world from flying apart. What holds does not always glow. What holds does not always need your hands. You turn your head slightly and the pillow changes its weather to match you. The fabric gives, then settles. Small kindnesses like these add up to a climate. The climate becomes a coast where rest makes landfall. You think of shells traveling under the orders of a current they never meet. The shell does not ask the water for identification. It accepts what carries it. You are allowed to be that shell. You are allowed to let the water know the way. Somewhere a small appliance writes its single line through the dark, unwavering. It is a friendly horizon, a proof that constancy can be quiet. Beyond the roof, there are longer lines, filaments finer than frost, that tie lanterns to lanterns until streets of light become cities, and cities become rivers, and rivers become a web that breathes. You do not need to see it to be included. Inclusion precedes noticing. You belonged before you looked. That is why looking feels like coming home. Return to the circle drawn by breath. Let it widen by a finger's width, then a whisper more. Do not force it. Circles dislike insistence. They answer to patience. After a few turns, the circle is a room, and the room is a harbor, and the harbor says, anchor is just another word for trust. You do not drop anything. You release the idea of drifting alone. You picture the capsule again, and realize that the small window is a mirror as well. The starlight folds into your face, and your face becomes one more lantern in the larger pattern. The thought is simple and enough. The pattern likes company. It is better at being itself when more beings say yes to being held. Your yes is small and perfect, and already offered each time you exhale without argument. Which image felt warmer, shoreline current or starlit thread? Listen to the answer arriving without words. Perhaps the warmth is not in choosing, but in knowing you could choose either at any moment and be guided just the same. Perhaps warmth is agency without effort, the kind that grows when you trust a set of hands you cannot see because they have never dropped you. Now the roofline. Picture it as a horizon inside the room. Above the shingles, something like dew but made of light rests, where lines cross lines. A lattice you can't quite look at directly, the way your own kindness sometimes becomes shy when praised. It holds lanterns with the same matter-of-fact grace that your mattress holds your weight. Not dramatic, not loud, simply there, simply able, simply ongoing. You do not need to climb to touch it. You touch it every time your breath settles and makes more room for itself. The web is a metaphor and not a metaphor. River, fabric, cello note. You do not have to choose. The mind can keep all 3 like stones in a pocket, warm from being carried. When the next part of the night arrives, you will recognize its shape because you have already felt its cousins, bending without breaking, holding without gripping, guiding without announcing. These are family traits. You are meeting the family by candlelight, and everyone is speaking in a language your body understands. You let the tide inside you settle until it feels like silk drawn across a table, smooth, nearly weightless. You have learned enough from the shoreline to carry the ocean into the room without the sand. It lives now as cadence, lift, fall, arrive, release. You are water and shore at once, which is another way of saying you are held and holding both, without effort. If sight can miss an ocean at night, what else can daylight miss? Ask again, and let the answer stay shy. The truth prefers the dim where edges are patient. What holds does not always glow. You know this, because you have leaned on things that never asked for a spotlight. Kindness that arrived as a blanket on a late couch, a message that said, "Breathe, I'm here." A silence that stopped arguing before you did, holding without display, support without ceremony. You bring attention back to the simplest map you own, the breath. It draws a triangle now, because triangles are honest about balance. Inhale to the base, exhale to one side, rest across the other, again. The geometry calms not because it is perfect, but because it is repeatable. Repeatable becomes trustworthy. Trustworthy becomes quiet. Quiet becomes sleep's first language. Touch the sheet with your fingertips. Feel its grain. The small ridges say, "We bend and remain ourselves." The weave says, "Crossing is how we keep each other from slipping." The cotton says, "Softness is a structure. You don't need the words." Your skin collects the lesson and sets it gently on the shelf of the body. Later, when curves bend paths in a bigger room than this, you will remember with your fingertips first. Memories stored as touch. The thimblecraft hums on in your imagination, because imagination is a real place where rest does real work. It drifts not with aim, but with trust. No schedule, no itinerary, only the river that is not water, and the agreement to be carried. Fog clear, fog clear. Each breath writes and erases the same small circle on glass until the circle becomes a lullaby. The distance between lanterns is not lonely, because the distance is a path made of welcome. You travel on welcome. The ceiling above you learns to be sky. The corners learn to be horizons. Your walls learn to be very patient cliffs where a dark tide rises and recedes so slowly it becomes the definition of calm. In this wider room, stars stop being points and become threads. Threads cross into lattices. Lattices hold bright droplets, the way dew holds morning before anyone wakes. You cannot force your eyes to see such fine work, but you can feel its result the way you feel warmth without watching the sun. Consequence is also a kind of proof. The cello note returns, a pressure that is not a push, a tone that does not require ears to be heard. It hums from the floorboards up into the ribs. It sets the lantern under your chest into a resonance that has nothing to do with volume. Quiet things can be generous with power. You rest inside that generosity, the way a shore rests inside a tide, shaped by it, never scolded by it. You try a small experiment that requires neither effort nor witness. For 3 breaths, let the exhale be longer, nothing dramatic, just a little more room after the leaving. Notice how the body answers with gratitude, disguised as heaviness. The mattress rises to meet you, as if it had been waiting for you to weigh this much. The mind sees what the body is doing and decides to stop giving orders. The demotion feels like relief. Management retires. The craft drifts better without a captain. The open loop keeps you companioned rather than restless. If sight can miss an ocean at night, what else can daylight miss? It might miss the way your worries are shells that the inner current has already begun to steer. It might miss the way a room can be a harbor even when no boat is tied to the post. It might miss the way a breath, taken honestly, is a tide obeying a moon you never see. What holds does not always glow. The glow is in what it allows to rest without drifting away. You let language thin until it's nearly all air. River, fabric, note, 3 stones in the pocket of your attention. You roll them with your thumb one at a time. River, for motion without command. Fabric, for strength that looks like softness. Note, for coherence without instruction. They do not compete. They harmonize. Keep them. They will be companions when the story widens in the next valley. Now, Draw the room again by breath, but faster to begin and slower to end. See how slowing teaches the mind what direction to face. See how the edges of the room blur their names. Chair becomes corner, becomes hush. Even the clock forgets to tick and remembers to flow. Soft. The word lands and stays. Soft. You remember the shore because your soles still hold the cool of wet sand. You remember the craft because your palm still holds the print of the window's circle. You remember the weave because your fingertips still hold the ridges. Sensory echoes are a form of guidance. They allow you to carry maps inside your skin so thought can sleep. This is how you will travel the rest of the night, by echo, by the returns that do not require effort to find their way back to you. As you turn your attention upward for a last look before the drift goes deeper, you find the specific image that will wait for you at the end of the story and meet you here at the beginning's far edge. Above the shingles, an invisible lattice holds lanterns, the way morning holds dew, each drop bright because of what does not shine, each lantern steady because of threads that prefer quiet, each breath easier because the world is made of more than what announces itself. The ocean taught you that holding can look like shaping. The fabric taught you that strength can feel like welcome. The note taught you that order can be a kindness. Together, they say the same sentence in different accents. You are carried, and because you are carried, you can carry nothing. Because you are held, you can let go. Because you are inside a pattern that knows how to keep itself, you are free to sleep inside it. Before you slip farther, you may let one more choice appear without strain. Which image will you keep close as you drift? Shoreline current or starlit thread? Choose it the way night chooses stars, quietly, with room for change, and once chosen, set it gently on the small table beside your breath. It will be there when you reach for it later without reaching at all. Now the roof is only a feeling, and the lattice is only a hum, and the lanterns are only the steady glow inside your ribs. You do not need to go anywhere to touch any of it. The unseen has already arrived. It always arrives first. You simply join it by breathing. The rest will widen when it needs to, and you will widen with it without trying. That is the promise, and it has already begun to keep itself. You breathe in, and the lens widens. The room draws back a step without leaving you, and the night moves closer without touching. A cool hush settles, and in that hush a pattern appears the way frost appears on glass, quietly, decisively, with a beauty that is more arrangement than decoration. Thin lines lace to other thin lines. Where they cross, a brighter bead rests, like a lantern pausing at an unmarked crossroads. You are looking at a web that carries weight without hands. You are feeling a structure that prefers patience to proof, stillness and motion, certainty and mystery, clock and lullaby, pairs that lean against each other, the way two tired travelers lean at the same station. The web is not still, and yet it holds. It is not loud, and yet it speaks. You let your breath match what you're shown, longer on the way in, slower on the way out. The exhale tells the body it can set its luggage down, and when luggage is on the floor, wandering becomes easier, not harder. You sense a spiral turning somewhere far beyond roofs and weather. It spins too fast for the lanterns you can count, and still it does not fly apart. A dance that should lose its steps, and somehow never does. You listen for the reason, and you hear not a lecture but an orchestra pit you cannot see. The music is stronger than the dancers you can count. The pit is deep, the strings are low, the rhythm is old. You do not need to see the musicians to move with the measure. You are allowed to be carried by a tempo that has been there all along. Inside, nearer than thought, smaller than worry, another music hums. Mitochondria, tiny hearths in every well-lit cell, burn their soft blue fires. Their work is quiet, relentless, benevolent. A household chorus no one applauds and everyone depends on. You zoom out, and the chorus enlarges to a far choir, clusters of galaxies humming together across distances the mind can't hold without dropping. Same pattern, different scale. A lullaby written in fractal script. You are permitted to read it by feel. More of reality is dark than bright. And still, the bright teaches you where the dark is. The line arrives as a soft fact and immediately becomes a friend. You don't have to sharpen it. You let it soften you. The stars are breadcrumbs scattered on a table you don't see, and by their scatter you learn the shape of the table. The lanterns tell on the lattice. The dancers testify to the hall. In your own room, ease tells on trust. The jaw that unhooks and tells on the safety that led it. Seen effects, unseen causes. This is the night's kind arithmetic. Count what glows to learn what holds. You breathe again, and the lens widens a whisper more. Halos appear, faint bowls of quiet around each whirl of lanterns. Not rings that imprison, but spaces that keep. A cradle for a galaxy, patient as a palm. You know the feeling in the body before the mind names it. The rib cage around your lantern breath, expanding and returning, tender scaffolding that never argues with its purpose. As above, so within, the unseen as caregiver, not menace. Architecture that sings under its work instead of clanging. Pause, notice the jaw, notice the shoulders. Let the tongue rest like a small warm leaf on the floor of the mouth. Feel how the body answers. Thank you, without words. Tempo reset. Your breath writes a longer line across the page of your chest, and the sentence it writes is simple. You are held. You do not have to grip back. The web is sharing its posture with you, and its posture is neither slump nor strain. It is trust. You turn the spiral in your mind the way you might turn a smooth stone in your hand. How can it spin so quickly and stay whole? You don't race toward an answer. You listen to the waltz itself. 3 and 3 and 3, a pattern of steps that closes its own circle. The hidden pit keeps measure. The floor remembers the feet. The air holds the skirts. Choreography without command. Strength expressed as gentleness. You realize you have always loved when strength looks like that. If a web can hold worlds without touching them, what web inside you keeps your nights from flying apart? Let the question hang like a lantern over quiet water. You do not have to name the web to feel the way your thoughts slow as if something soft caught them. You do not have to prove the weave to benefit from its give. The answer is not a word. The answer is your shoulders lowering half a breath. The answer is the way your heartbeat stops taking attendance and starts keeping time. Stillness and motion. You lie as if unmoving while blood makes journeys, while air trades places with air, while the planet completes 1,000 silent agreements under your bed. Certainty and mystery. You know enough to rest, and what you don't know volunteers to watch the door. Clock and lullaby. One counts, the other croons, and together they make a night you can trust. You are not asked to choose. You are invited to be carried by both. Let the idea of halo come closer, a bowl of quiet around each galaxy, a room around a lantern, a hush with shape. When you breathe in, feel your own bowl widen to make room for the bright. When you breathe out, feel it keep that room without closing. This is how the unseen loves, by granting space and remembering to keep it. Your ribcage is practicing the same affection the sky practices. You are not separate from the lesson. You are how the lesson learns itself here, tonight, in this life. More of reality is dark than bright, and still, the bright teaches you where the dark is. Repeat it like beads, not doctrine, but rhythm. Each time the bead passes, the mind grows rounder, the edges less persuasive. You are learning to look for causes and comforts, for structures and relief. You are learning that what you feel can be a map, not a mistake. The fact does not wake you. It wraps you. The statistic becomes a blanket because of the way you hold it. Loosely, kindly, without the need to count the threads. Pause again. Notice the breath touching the lip. Notice the low sound of the room that has been faithful all along. The ambient chorus dissolves towards silence, and in that near silence you detect a deeper hum, an almost sound that feels like pressure from everywhere at once. You don't push it away. You let it be a floor. When there is a floor, bodies rest. When there is a floor, thoughts lie down beside you and become harmless, like shoes by the door. The web on the glass thickens where paths cross, and at each crossing a lantern rests. You do not worry for the lanterns. Something invisible is good at this. Good at this is enough for tonight. The dance will continue without rehearsal. The waltz will keep its 3. The hall will hold. The pit will play. And you will go on being allowed to sleep in a universe that knows how to keep itself together with threads finer than language. Breathe in, and the lattice sharpens without hardening. Breathe out, and it loosens without letting go. You are learning the grammar of gentleness, how structure can be soft, how softness can be strong, stillness motion, certainty, mystery, clock, lullaby. The pairs return like tide marks on stone, proof that repetition can be comfort rather than cage. Turn inward for a moment and listen to the smallest hearths. Each cell hums its ember song, mitochondria tending blue fires you never have to feed. You are warmed by work you do not supervise. Zoom outward and the chorus changes scale without changing tune. Clusters murmur across distance. Harmonies braided through a web so fine it prefers to be felt rather than seen. Same melody, new octave. The body is the footnote to the cosmos, and also the headline. Not lesser, not greater, related. A spiral whirls in your attention, all lantern and arc. By what you count, it should fling itself to pieces, yet it doesn't. The step is too swift for the visible dancers. The dance remains whole. You listen beneath the floorboards and find the hidden orchestra pit keeping time. Bass notes. You cannot see pressing their kindness upward, choreography without command, strength without shout, the kind of power your body trusts on instinct because it recognizes the signature. Quiet plus consistent equals safe. Pause. Let the jaw lower a fraction. Let the tongue rest like a leaf. Let the eyes be heavy without telling them to close. Feel the ribcage practice halo, bowl of quiet around a small brightening inhale, and the bowl widens to make room, exhale, and the room remains. This is how being held feels when it is done well. No squeezing, no scolding, only space that stays available. You have known this before in ordinary ways. Someone keeping a chair for you, a place at the table, a lane in the crowd. The sky keeps a lane for galaxies. Your chest keeps a lane for breath. More of reality is dark than bright. And still, the bright teaches you where the dark is. Allow the sentence to move from ear to shoulder to chest, taking root where it chooses. The bright is a breadcrumb trail. The dark is the loaf that baked it. The visible is the ripple. The invisible is the stone's weight. You track comfort to find the frame, relief to find the reason, ease to find the unseen hand. Not proof in numbers, proof in ease. Not syllabus, but lullaby. Now let the mind hold a question the way palms cup water. If a web can hold worlds without touching them, what web inside you keeps your nights from flying apart? The answers do not need names. Perhaps it is habit trained into kindness. Perhaps it is trust that has forgotten how to brag. Perhaps it is the old friendship between your breath and your pulse. Whatever it is, you feel it tug thoughts into wider orbits. The sharp edges round. The circling slows. The night remembers its intention, which is to cradle rather than test. Tempo reset. Notice the simple sounds that prove the room is on your side. The fan's constant river. A neighbor sound fading like a thought that chose sleep. That faithful line of appliance hum you could draw in the air with your finger if you wished. These are your local filaments, familiar threads in the larger weave. Their job is small and perfect, to remind you that constancy is possible where you are. You are invited to carry one more texture into the palm. A linen field stretched smooth, nothing on it yet, only promise. You can sense without acting how a single quiet weight would change the paths of little beads set loose across its surface. You do not need to place the weight now. It is enough to imagine the field's readiness to listen, fabric that responds by shaping, not by resisting, a path guided by curve rather than leash. Keep the image like a folded handkerchief in the pocket of your attention. We will unfold it later gently. Return to breath. The waltz of 3 keeps its count. 1 for widening, 1 for keeping, 1 for release. The hidden pit does not miss a beat. Your body follows because following is easier than leading when the music is generous. You are allowed to prefer easy tonight. Easy is not lazy. Easy is aligned. The web carries by distributing. The halo carries by making room. The dance carries by timing. All 3 are tutors in effort that feels like relief. The thought of texture arrives like a gift you didn't know you needed. If the night had a texture, would it feel like silk, mist, or woven thread? Choose with the smallest motion inside your mind. Silk for glide, mist for embrace, woven thread for give and hold. Any answer is correct because the choosing is the medicine. Preference as lullaby, agency without effort. Breathe, soften. Let the chest remember bowl. Let the shoulders practice trust. The web brightens at its crossings, as if to say, here is where paths meet and make each other possible. You are a crossing too. Breath meets body, body meets night, night meets the grand field that makes room for lanterns to spin faster than their visible partners would allow. The miraculous sits down beside the ordinary, and they share bread without making a speech about it is stillness motion. You appear to lie still while galaxies rehearse their long arcs. Certainty, mystery. You know enough to rest and let the unknown do the rest. Clock, lullaby. Time keeps count so the song can drift. This is cooperation, not contest. Let cooperation be your posture. Let the mattress be the net. Let the rib cage be the bowl. Let the unseen be the floor. You are not falling. You are being placed. Hold the linen field in memory one more breath. Smooth, quiet, listening. Imagine not doing, merely imagining how a small stone would make every path a little different, not by command, but by curve. We will place the stone in a later valley, not to wake you, only to show you what your body already knows, that the night bends even light, and that bending can be a kindness. Breathe in and let the web come closer without crowding. Breathe out and feel how distance becomes gentleness when it is threaded. You are not outside this pattern looking in. You are a stitch within it, small and essential, strong because of everything that touches you without touching. The frost on glass image lingers, cross after cross, bead after bead, lanterns pausing where pathways meet, as if the night itself remembered to place resting spots along a road with no signs. You visit the spiral again, the one that spins too fast for the lanterns you can count and still refuses to fly apart. It is not stubborn. It is accompanied. The hidden pit holds the time. The floor remembers the steps. The skirts know when to turn. You listen to the bass line you cannot see and let it choose your pace. 3 and 3 and 3. A waltz in the marrow. Quiet, accurate, old. Strength that arrives as steadiness rather than spectacle. This is the kind your body has always preferred. Turn inward, micro, closer than thought. The tiny hearths tend their blue fires, mitochondria making warmth from the ordinary. You do not supervise, and still the work is done. Turn outward, macro, farther than naming. Clusters hum at the edges of vision. A cord suspended across rooms, too large for doors. The feeling is the same. Carried, not commanded, helped, not herded. You belong to both scales without needing to grow or shrink to fit. You are already the right size to be held by all of it. Halos draw nearer, faint bowls of quiet around whirl and lantern. You feel for them by analogy because analogy is a bridge the mind can cross while half asleep. Your ribcage is a halo, a bowl of quiet around the bright in your chest. Inhale, it widens. Exhale. It keeps the room it made. Love that remembers to keep space. That is what a good halo does. That is what your body is practicing. You do not squeeze to care. You do not clutch to keep. You make room, and you remember to keep it. More of reality is dark than bright. And still, the bright teaches you where the dark is. Let the words pass through you like beads in the hand, cool becoming warm. The bright tells on the dark, and the telling is tender. The star tells on the web. The breath tells on the trust. The easing jaw tells on the safety. You learn the unseen by its kindnesses, not its demands. You learn it by relief. Pause, jaw, shoulders, tongue resting like a leaf. Notice the smallest sounds, the faithful line of hum, the softest rustle that keeps you company without asking for a story. Allow a little more weight to settle into the bed. Trust is heavy in the best way. The mattress rises to meet it. Cooperation instead of contest. The night meets you halfway, and then a little more. You consider again the anchoring question, letting it be question-shaped rather than answer-shaped. If a web can hold worlds without touching them, what web inside you keeps your nights from flying apart? You feel an answering tug somewhere gentle, habit that has learned not to rush, kindness that happens without rehearsal, breath and pulse choosing the same tempo. The names are less important than the effect. Thoughts broaden their orbits, their corners round. They stop asking for permission and start accepting the invitation. Clock and lullaby, counting and crooning. You hear them both. One gives you a sense of direction. The other gives you a reason to stop needing one. Certainty and mystery, equal partners. Certainty sets down the floor. Mystery paints the walls with night-safe colors. Stillness and motion, braided. You lie still, and the whole room moves through time with you. Not metaphorically, literally. Effort is not invited because it is not required. The invitation reads, "Come as you are, breathe as you can." The linen field returns to your palm, smooth as a thought before language touches it. A stretched sheet, quiet and listening. You sense how paths could bend there without being broken, how a single gentle weight would teach beads to travel curves they didn't know they preferred. You do not place anything yet. It is enough to know the field is ready. Readiness can be a lullaby too, the calm that comes from being prepared without being poised. No bracing, only welcoming. Repeat the antithesis softly, like steps you no longer have to watch. Not noise, but note. Not chaos, but choreography. Not gripping, but giving. Each pair loosens a small knot. Each pair returns a little attention to breath. Repetition is a kindness because it lets the body predict what comes next, and predictability lets the guard dogs curl up and sleep. You do not need them tonight. You have threads, bowls, and bass lines doing the keeping. You glance, without moving, toward the crossings on the frost, the brighter beads where paths meet. You are one of those places. The day met the night here. Thought meets feeling here. World meets room, meets body, meets breath. Crossings are not complicated. They are invitations. Linger where things meet, and notice how much holding happens there without hands. Thresholds cradle more than they divide. If the night had a texture, you chose it already. Silk, mist, or woven thread, and that choice has colored the way you are being held. Silk gives glide to your thoughts. Mist gives embrace to your edges. Woven thread gives give and hold to your posture on the bed. The texture does not ask to be correct. It asks to be kind. Kindness is the only rightness needed here. You let the web overlay the room like a transparency. Ceiling becomes sky. Beams become filaments. The lamp you forgot to switch off in the other room becomes a single close lantern in a field of far ones. You are not mapping. You are merging. The body sighs because merging takes less energy than drawing boundaries when no threat has knocked. The sigh is the signature of relief. Relief is the signature of being held. The dance continues without rehearsal. The hall keeps time without clocks, and you are allowed to admire the competence of the unseen. Good at this, is still enough. The hidden orchestra pit does not require applause. It requires breathing, which you are going to do anyway. Your part is the easiest part and the most honest. Show up. Soften. Be carried. Hold the linen field one last time before we set it down by the bed. Smooth, quiet, listening. Imagine, only imagine, how a small stone placed at its center would create a bowl that teaches every path to curve kindly around it. Imagine light as one of those paths, obedient not to force, but to shape. We will place a stone on the sheet in a moment, not to wake you, but to show you how the night bends even light. The lesson is already familiar to your fingertips. Your body knows what a curve can do. Breathe. Let the halo in your chest keep its promise to make room. Let the web above the roof keep its promise to distribute what needs carrying. Let the spiral keep its promise to stay whole. Promises kept without ceremony. Architecture as lullaby. You, threaded into a competence older than clocks, practiced by galaxies and ribs alike. Nothing urgent, everything held. As you settle into the valley between this breath and the next, allow the words to fade and the images to hum. Frost on glass, bowls of quiet, hidden pits where music waits. You do not have to lift them. They lift you, and as they lift, you drift. And as you drift, the field waits for a gentle stone, and the night prepares to show you its softest secrets without asking you to sit up to see them. Imagine a satin bedsheet stretched over a frame, smooth, quiet, listening. You do not tug it, you let it be. The fabric shines a little in the dark, the way calm sometimes has its own moon. There is nothing on it yet, only readiness. Readiness is its own kind of kindness. Now, in the very center, rest a smooth stone, not heavy enough to tear, only heavy enough to matter. The sheet dips, not dramatically, not rudely, just enough to say, I have heard you. The dip is a bowl, a hush with shape. The fabric did not push the stone, and the stone did not order the fabric. They agreed. Agreement makes gentleness possible. At the edge of the frame, set a tiny bead, let it go, watch, it rolls, it curves, it finds the bowl without being told where it is. Not because the bead wants anything, not because the bead is clever, because the path itself has changed. Not command, but curve, not force, but form, not gripping, but giving. Again, smooth sheet, patient stone, small bead, release. The path answers by bending. The bead says yes without knowing why. You don't rush the moment. You watch the inevitability feel like music. The same way a melody knows how to return to its first note, without being warned. The sheet is a song written in softness. The stone is the low note that gives the song its home. The bead is a listener who cannot help but dance. Again, this time begin closer to the dip. Begin farther. It doesn't matter. Curves greet you wherever you start. The bowl is a welcome that does not cancel your motion. It guides it. You are learning with your eyes closed. You are learning with your breath. You are learning that shape is a teacher that prefers quiet. You touch the sheet with your fingertips. Feel the slight slope, the weave still holding, the strength inside softness. You do not need to name the angle to know there is one. Your hand is wiser than your vocabulary tonight. Wisdom is the body recognizing a pattern it already lives by. The ribs learn this each breath. The tide learns this each shore. You notice that the bead never needed a push once the slope existed. Path is permission. Permission is power without noise. And the power you are watching is polite. Change without sharpness. Guidance without grip. You let that sentence sit in you the way the stone sits in the fabric. Not heavy enough to tear, only heavy enough to matter. Now widen the picture a heartbeat at a time. Keep the fabric, but let it become the room. Keep the bowl, but let it become a hush that reaches the ceiling. Keep the bead, but let it become anything that moves. A thought rolling across a tired mind. a feeling passing by the lantern in your chest. The curve does not argue, it receives. You are not fighting motion, you are being steered by welcome. Again, satin, stone, bead, release, curve. The sequence is simple, and simplicity is what makes it lullaby safe. Your mind does not have to solve, it only has to recognize. Repetition is a blanket. Each pass tucks another edge. You feel the settling begin at the jaw and continue through the shoulders until even the smallest muscles agree to stop auditioning for the role of necessary. You stay with the fabric a few breaths longer, because staying is sometimes the most helpful thing you can do. Stay, and notice how the bowl is not a hole. It is shape. It is architecture. The sheet is unbroken. Everything follows the curve, because the curve is there. Path first, then behavior. Context before choice. The kindness of a good environment. Let the bead trace a circle around the bowl, not falling in, not flying away. A devotion to a path that changes as it goes, but keeps meaning. This is how arcs are born, not out of obedience, but out of being answered. The bead is answered by the dip. The dip is answered by the stone. The sheet is answered by the presence that asks to be held. Each answer is soft. Each answer keeps the fabric whole. Now allow a small translation, carried on breath. Replace the sheet with space. Replace the stone with mass. Replace the bead with a traveler. Anything that moves, moves along what shape provides. You do not have to force your mind to stretch. It already knows how by metaphor. River, fabric, cello note. The names change, the pattern stays. A bowl in a field that is everywhere. A hush with shape that tells motion where home is. You do not hurry the next turn. The night likes patience. The image likes patience. You whisper the sequence once more to memorize the feeling and not just the words. Smooth field, quiet wait, small traveler, release, curve. The traveler says yes because the field has already said here. The yes is not a decision. It is a consequence. You can feel how this applies to the way a breath lengthens when safety settles in. The path of your chest changes, and the breath follows. Not because breath is trying, because shape is inviting. You let your awareness slide back to the place where finger meets sheet. The grain is a map, and you are a fingertip pilgrim reading its cities without needing names. The slope reminds you that even a gentle presence can turn straight lines into arcs. It does not take violence to alter a journey. It takes belonging. The stone belongs. The sheet adjusts. The traveler belongs. The path adjusts. You belong. The night adjusts. Kindness is the adjustment that keeps things together. Now keep the translation, but make it tender. When a traveler is light itself, it still answers to shape. Light is obedient not to orders, but to the room it passes through. You do not need to announce the law. You can feel it in the way the metaphor refuses to break. The bead is light. The bowl is presence. The sheet is the world. The curve is the most natural thing. Straights are what happen when nothing is asking to be held. Curves are what happen when something is there to hold. Again, for the body, smooth field, quiet wait, small traveler, release, curve. The rhythm is slow on purpose. The pauses are as important as the words. You breathe into the spaces between them, because resting in between is how the lesson lulls rather than lifts. The mind does not climb, it sways. Swaying is learning without effort. Sleep's favorite way to understand. You let one more image arrive without knocking. The bowl is deep enough to keep company, but shallow enough to be kind. The traveler does not crash, it is guided. The center does not demand. It persuades by being there. Persuasion by presence. You know this in your life. A friend whose calm changes the temperature of the room. A remembered sentence that softens the edge of a day. Shape doing the work, words cannot. The universe is fluent in this kindness. Stay with the fabric. Stay with the stone. Stay with the bead. Let the third repetition feel like the first time you truly saw it, not with eyes, but with breath. You are preparing for a gentle widening, one where the image will tilt its face toward the sky and show you what it has been saying all along. For now, the lesson remains in your hands and in your chest. The path is the teacher. The curve is the instruction. Softness can be a law, and a law can be soft. Keep the feeling of the fabric in your hands, the patience of the bowl, the quiet honesty of the curve. Now let the picture lift without effort. The field becomes wider than room and roofs. The quiet weight becomes a presence so large it has no edges you can name. The small traveler becomes light itself, leaving some far lantern and wandering toward you across a night that does not hurry. Light doesn't know what bends it, only that it must bow, not out of fear, out of fidelity to the shape it travels. The path is a promise light keeps without thinking. This is not metaphor, but law, a lullaby law, older than clocks, soft as inevitability. When light passes close to great presence, it curves the way the bead curved, the way your breath curves when safety settles in. There is no command, only the room saying here. There is no argument, only the path answering this way. Sometimes the curve gathers all the way around, and the far lantern blurs into a ring, as if the universe were wearing glasses to bring its own distance into focus. The rim brightens where the path collects. The center holds the hush. You do not force yourself to picture it. You let it arrive the way a memory arrives, complete enough to be tender, vague enough to be kind. You can whisper the old question and feel it answer itself. What holds the light when light can't hold itself? The shape does. The bowl does. The room does. Not hands, but curve. Not grip, but welcome. The traveler keeps to the invitation that has always been there. Your body recognizes this truth because it lives by it. The breath follows the space your ribs make. The thought follows the space your mercy makes. The evening follows the space your permission makes. Pause. Let the sentence stand where you can lean on it. Not metaphor, but law. The law is quiet, precise, compassionate. It says motion belongs to shape. It says path exists before decision. It says you are carried by contexts you do not have to supervise. Let that awareness take the weight from your shoulders, the way a good chair takes weight from your back. Exhale, longer, softer. You do not need names to rest, but you are allowed to keep one on the nightstand if it calms you. Gravitational lensing, a phrase like glass in the moonlight. The meaning is already in your hands from the fabric and the stone. Light is the bead, presence is the bowl, space is the sheet. Curves draw the story. Your understanding is a lantern that does not glare. It glows. The surprise is gentle on purpose. Light doesn't know what bends it, only that it must bow. You know that bow. You have taken it in conversations where kindness changed the room. You have taken it in moments where silence guided you better than words. Bowing is not defeat. It is cooperation with a shape that keeps everything whole. Your thoughts can bow tonight. Your worries can bow, not to vanish, but to curve into wider orbits that do not scrape your edges. Are you awake? If yes, let me know in the comments. Exhale. You're doing beautifully. There is nothing to keep up with. The lesson knows how to wait for you and how to move when you move. No rush, no loss. The ring returns for a moment, not to prove, only to companion, a circle of light that is really a story about distance, presence, and the path between. The center is not empty. It is the bowl's hush. The circle is not magic. It is the curve made visible. You are allowed to feel tenderness for a geometry that takes such care to be kind. The night wears its glasses. You see further into its patience, and because the body learns by echo, let the fabric come back under your fingertips. Smooth field, quiet weight, small traveler, release, curve. The choreography is the same, Whether the stage is linen or space, motion follows what is made for it. Kindness is efficient. Efficiency can be gentle. Notice what begins to happen inside you when you trust this. Thoughts that insisted on straight lines find it easier to arc. The urge to sprint decides to sway. Plans loosen their grip and discover they do not fall. They settle into paths that do not scrape. Your evening is lensing too. An unseen kindness bends your thoughts away from fear. You already live this truth. You have been living it since the first time breath taught you how to return without orders. Let the cadence lower like a shade pulled down half a window. In, the field is ready. Out, the traveler curves. In, the bowl is patient. Out, the path reveals itself. You are not solving. You are consenting. Consent is the softest kind of strength. It makes room for sleep to find you exactly where you are. And if you wish to leave a small footprint in the sand of this moment, you can answer a featherweight choice. Which felt gentler, the sheet and stone, or the universe wearing glasses? There is no wrong answer. The choosing itself is a lullaby. A word or two and done. The rest can happen in silence. Let the understanding settle where effort can't reach. The lesson is already in your hands and lungs. Smooth field, quiet wait, small traveler, release, curve. You can whisper it or think it or let it happen without language. The result is the same. Motion listens to shape, and shape can be kind. The question from earlier glides back with a softer light. What holds the light when light can't hold itself? You feel the answer now as posture rather than proof. The room holds by curving. The path holds by offering. The traveler is faithful to the invitation. You are being invited too, to let your thoughts take wider roots around the warm hill of your breath, to bow without losing height, to follow what welcomes you most. There is a sweetness in discovering that inevitability can be gentle. The bead never argued. The light never knew. The curve did the caring. In your evening, care may take the same shape. A phrase remembered at the right moment. A pause that appeared where a reaction might have been. A kindness so quiet it becomes a bowl under the day. You do not have to calculate its angle. You only have to enjoy the path it makes for you. The body answers with its favorite wordless yes. The jaw unhooks. The shoulders loosen into their hinges. The ribs widen the room and keep it. The lantern under the blanket brightens, then settles. You notice how the breath's arc is already a small lens, rounding what passes through it, smoothing the edges, letting difficult light arrive and depart without scraping. Your evening is lensing, and you are the fabric that knows how to shape without tearing. Now, an interlude made of counting that feels like the sea remembering your name. In, 2, 3, 4, out, slow. In, 2, 3, 4, out, slow. In the 2, 3, 4, out, slow. If this calms you, a gentle like helps me keep the lights low. Breathe again. In the 2, 3, 4, out, slow. Return without hurry. The field is still smooth. The quiet wait is still polite. The traveler is still faithful, and the room inside you is even softer for having stopped to count. Nothing urgent. Everything held. You can set a thought on the slope and watch it arc toward stillness. You can set a worry there and see it circle into a wider orbit where it becomes background rather than weather. Curves turn noise into music and music into hush. You can keep a single phrase like a pebble in your pocket. Not metaphor, but law. Not threat, but order. Not command, but curve. The universe wears glasses when presence is thick enough to bend what passes. The ring is only the visible confession of an invisible kindness. Somewhere far away, a lantern is doubled into a halo by the path it travels. Here, close by, your breath doubles your calm the same way. The resemblance is not coincidence. It is kinship. The pattern invites a closing bow. Smooth field, quiet wait, small traveler, release, curve, and now one more tender translation, offered like a hand you can hold in the dark. When you choose rest, you are placing a gentle stone at the center of your night, not heavy enough to tear, only heavy enough to matter. Paths change around that choice. Roots soften, light bows. Everything that moves in you takes the curve into account. You don't force it, you allow it. Permission is architecture. Listen a moment longer to the almost sound beneath the room's soft noises. That bass line has been present since before you learned any of these words. It will remain when words are gone. It is the sound of being accompanied. You are accompanied by shape, by patience, by a law that prefers to speak in lullabies. Knowing this, you are free to know less and rest more. What felt gentler to you, the sheet and stone, or the universe wearing glasses? Keep the answer as a color if words are tired. Keep it as warmth if color slips. Either way, you have what you need. The metaphor and the law now hold hands and lead you without asking you to stand. And because stories love a path forward, let a soft hint arrive like moon on water. There are places where bright gas slows, but the hidden skeleton glides on. There are crossings where halos keep their lanes, while lantern flocks pass through each other with grace. The same web that curved the bead will show its steady patience when crowds collide. We will visit that quiet proof next. For now, the bowl in the fabric has done its work. It has taught your evening to curve away from sharpness. It has taught your breath to be a lens for comfort. Close your eyes and see more. The field waits without watching. The traveler continues without urging. The curve holds without announcing. You are already on the path. All that remains is to let it carry you at the speed of your breathing. Slow, slower, soft, softer. You live inside a bowl of quiet. You have felt it without naming it, a space that makes room and remembers to keep it. Inhale, and the bowl widens. Exhale, and the room remains. This is the way kindness behaves when it takes the shape of structure. This is the way the night holds its lanterns, and the way your chest holds its light. Two lantern flocks drift toward each other across a very wide dark. They arrive like weather that has already made up its mind. There is mist you can see, glow that slows and warms, as if it were catching its breath mid-crossing. And there is a skeleton you cannot see, quiet mass that keeps its stride, barely pausing, passing through like a remembered melody that doesn't stumble where the lyrics do. The night tells its story in two inks, X-ray bruise here, graceful ghost there, both true, both gentle, both part of the same choreography that prefers curve to clash. You do not need names. You know the feeling. Some parts of you move through tangles as if the air had turned to syrup. Other parts glide on, faithful to a deeper momentum. The worries are the warm, visible mist that slows, swirls, and clings. The steadiness is the hidden frame that continues. You have watched this happen on long evenings when thoughts snagged on themselves and still something inside kept level time. The unseen in you carries the lanterns of your attention when your surface weather stalls. You are steadier than your surface storms. Place your palm over the lantern in your chest. Notice the halo you make without trying, a bowl of quiet around a small bright. Your ribcage is not a cage. It is a cradle. Inhale, and the cradle widens to welcome what arrives. Exhale, and the welcome does not withdraw. The body knows how to love like this. Room first, room kept. This knowing is older than clocks, older than names, older than the reasons you give yourself to rest. If the strongest hands are invisible, what soft strength have you hidden in yourself? Ask it like a feather landing. Do not hunt an answer. Answers that matter step forward when called kindly. You may feel only a tilt, a slight shift in weight toward the part of you that keeps moving when the mist gets thick. That is enough. Recognition is a kind of warmth. Warmth is a kind of proof. Now let your jaw disappear. Feel the mattress hold your weight like a halo. The edges of you loosen into the bed's remembered shape. Support that does not announce itself becomes the most persuasive kind. You are not falling. You are being placed. The body writes a longer line of breath, and the mind agrees to read along rather than dictate. This is relief in its quiet uniform, ordinary, available, exact. Imagine the wide bowl that the Milky Way floats inside. No rim you can touch, only a patience that keeps orbit. The same bowl is mirrored in the way your hands could cup your abdomen if they wished, a curve shaped to fit a glow. Bowl, halo, rib cage, mirrors placed at different distances, reflecting the same intention. Keep, don't clutch. Carry, don't crowd. Let the bright be quick without flying apart. Let the quick be safe without being slowed into fear. The lantern flocks cross, and the mist you can see presses and warms where paths tangle. The skeleton you can't see glides on, its momentum almost untouched. What is visible leaves a smear like breath on glass. What is hidden leaves a line like a promise kept. You have lived this too, a day that knotted your thoughts, while some deeper rhythm walked you through errands, meals, and doorways, as if it had rehearsed the route long before you asked it to. The unseen is practiced. Practice is another word for trust that remembers itself. Pause at the threshold of the next breath and listen for the low instrument in the room that never stopped playing. The faithful tone beneath everything. You do not need ears. You can feel it in your bones. That is what a halo sounds like when it sings under its work. It does not need to be seen to continue. It does not need to be praised to be precise. Its mercy is endurance. Its language is space kept open. You are allowed to picture your worries as the visible mist that slows and warms during a crossing. Not wrong, not bad, just the part that carries heat and shows color. And you are allowed to picture your deeper steadiness as the quiet frame that passes through with barely a pause. Not distant, not cold, simply faithful. Together they write the whole of you. Together they prove the point. What you can't see sometimes keeps its momentum when what you can see gets tangled. Let that sentence take off its shoes and live here a while. Stillness, just motion. You lie still and are carried. Certainty is mystery. You know enough to rest and let the unknown keep orbit. Clock, lullaby. Time counts the turns while the song smooths them. The pairs return because repetition is a relief. The body relaxes when the next note is predictable. The predictable can be tender. Tenderness can be strong. A glance upward inside your mind finds the roofline, and above it, the faint lattice that has been with you all night. Threads crossing into bowls holding lanterns at the waypoints of unmarked roads. Overlay that structure with your inner landscape until they fit like two transparent slides. The room becomes sky. The sky becomes ribcage. The ribcage becomes bowl. Nothing new to do, only a recognition to allow. You are inside the halo you sleep in, and the halo is inside you. Both directions true, both directions easy. Breathe as if agreeing. Breathe as if you had always known, because you have. Picture two lantern flocks meeting in slow motion. Not battle, not blur, just passage. The bright mist you can see breathes heavier at the point of crossing, warming where it presses. The quiet frame you cannot see keeps its tempo and slips ahead. X-ray brews here, graceful ghost there. Two inks writing one sentence. Some things slow when touched. Some things keep going because they are shaped to pass through. You know this sentence in your own life. The visible parts of worry are quick to heat. The unseen scaffold, habit, trust, the long practice of breathing glides on. It doesn't announce itself. It repeats itself. And repetition is how the body learns which voice to follow without making a scene. The halo's voice is quiet and exact. It says, keep room, keep orbit, keep kindness. You answer by doing the simplest brave thing. Nothing extra. Simply staying where breath can find you and make a bowl of you again. Let your hands hover over your abdomen as if to cup a small lamp. Notice how the shape of your palms teaches the body what kept feels like. Inhale, the bowl widens. Exhale, the room remains. Your ribcage understands this language fluently. So does the sky. A galaxy whirls faster than its visible lanterns should allow, yet it stays whole because the bull is there. The bull does not scold it for being quick. It loves it by letting it be quick without flying apart. The crossing continues, lantern through lantern. The mist slows where it meets. The skeleton glides. You are offered a soft courage here, to trust the part of you that keeps moving even when the surface tangles, not rushing, not ignoring, simply proceeding on a deeper appointment. Steady, precise, kind. You have met this part before in long nights, after long days. It walked you to water, to sleep, to morning. It knows the route by heart. Now let your jaw unname itself. Let your teeth step back from the door they have been guarding. Feel the mattress take your weight the way a halo takes light, without adding pressure, without asking for proof. The edges of you melt into the remembered shape of the bed. Memory that serves as support is one of the night's oldest gifts. You can lie down on it without qualifications. You can believe it without argument. If the strongest hands are invisible, what soft strength have you hidden in yourself? Perhaps it is the one that loosens the chest when no one is watching. Perhaps it is the one that remembers to forgive without keeping a ledger. Perhaps it is just the one that knows where the exhale ends and the quiet begins. You don't have to name it to let it carry you. Carrying is its nature. Acceptance is yours. Imagine the Milky Way afloat in a bowl too wide for names. A faint, patient rim that is really a field, that is really a promise. You can be fast and still be safe. The same promise hums in your bones when breath lifts your front and leaves your back resting. A perfect compromise. The bowl is not a border. It is a welcome kept open. Welcome that keeps itself is the rarest and easiest thing you know. It is why you relax when someone says, stay as long as you like, and means it. More of reality is dark than bright. And still the bright teaches you where the dark is. You see the warm smear where the mist slowed and say, there was touching. You watch the ghost pass through and say, there was keeping. Your own day leaves warm smears on your calendar. Your deeper part passes through and keeps the appointment with sleep. You learn the unseen by the way the scene behaves. Your lesson lands without weight. It arrives as permission. Now, a small ritual that changes the weather inside the room without moving any furniture. Breathe in for a count you do not speak. Breathe out for a count that is one breath longer. Again. Notice how the longer leaving improves your staying. Notice how the shoulders thank you before you can form the word. The halo you sleep inside grows more obvious when the exhale takes its time. Time is what halos are made of. Time that refuses to hurry you through yourself. Two flocks finish their crossing. The mist writes its soft bruise. The frame writes its quiet line. Both leave signatures the night can read in the morning, but neither asks for applause. Competence prefers silence. You can borrow that preference. Competence in resting is not performative. No special posture, no perfect thought. It is simply the decision to trust what's been holding you all along. What's one small thing you'll set down tonight? A word, a wait, a wait. Set down means let the bull keep it for now. You may pick it up in daylight if it is still yours. Bulls are good at holding until morning. Choose one syllable if that's all you have. Then let the choice be the beginning of forgetting. Forgetting can be a form of grace. Pause. Listen for the least sound. A fan like distant surf. A clock that doesn't tick so much as flow. A neighbor's echo fading into the common hush. These are your local halos, bowls of sameness that free you from needing to check the door. Sameness can be kindness when it is gentle. When the background is safe, the foreground can soften without scanning for exits. You are inside the halo you sleep inside. The phrasing folds over on itself on purpose. It's true in both directions because structure and you are not separate on nights like this. You are how the bull learns about breath, and breath is how the bull learns about you. Reciprocity without ledger, care without tally, rest without report. The universe is very experienced at this. You are within its area of expertise. You glance, only in feeling, toward the great crossing again. One part warmed and slowed, one part slipped on. The logic is felt, not forced. You are steadier than your surface storms. The surface can signal and shimmer. The depth does the carrying. If you need a sentence to keep on the nightstand, let it be what you can't. See sometimes keeps its momentum when what you can see gets tangled. Read it once more by breath, then let breath remember it for you. And if you want a thin bridge into the mantra that waits ahead, let the words find you rather than the other way. You are held by what you cannot see. Say it without sound. Feel how the body nods before the mind agrees. A forehead relaxes, a throat widens, a belly answers. The sentence doesn't need volume, it needs room. Room is what halos are made to give. The roofline is above you even with eyes closed. Above the roof, the faint lattice glows where threads cross. Below the roof, your ribs glow where breath chooses lantern from ember and back again. Overlay them until they match. The room is the sky now. The sky is your chest. You are the place where the pattern repeats with love. You are the place where being held becomes an experience and not an idea. Let the bowl and the lattice overlap until they are the same kindness, wearing two costumes, one close, one far. Your ribs keep their patient arc. The sky keeps its patient arc. You are practiced in both. Breathing is your apprenticeship in astronomy you never knew you'd begun. Two lantern flocks have finished their passing through. In the slow afterglow, you can still read what happened. Here, a warm smear where the visible mist pressed and lingered. There, a quiet line where the unseen skeleton drifted and was gone. The contrast is not argument. It is explanation, offered in two inks. The night writes like this because it trusts you to feel the logic without a lesson. What you can't see sometimes keeps its momentum. When what you can see gets tangled, you carry that sentence like a smooth stone now. It doesn't weigh you down. It reminds your hands they are hands. Let your breath answer in the simplest grammar. In, room widens. Out, room remains. Again, again. Notice how repetition invites the body's counsel of small muscles to sit down. The brows uncurl. The throat widens as if it has been given better lighting. The belly participates without being summoned. You are not doing rest. Rest is happening, and you are not interrupting. The halo is keeping orbit around you and within you, and orbit is the opposite of urgency. If the strongest hands are invisible, you might realize that many of your safest moments were carried by what never asked for thanks. The habit of brushing your teeth before bed that tells the nervous system what hour it is. The friend who answers with, "I'm here," and nothing more. The chair you always choose because it holds the shape of your sitting like memory holds a face. Scaffolds that don't advertise are the most reliable ones. You are allowed to become one for yourself, quietly, without ceremony, by keeping the small promises that widen and keep room. Let your attention skim the surface of a few old storms, not to stir them, to notice how much calmer their water is when seen from this distance. You're steadier than your surface storms. Even the memory obeys the bowl. It settles at the edges and refuses to take the center. You do not push it away. You simply keep the center for breath and the soft weight of your own presence. Priorities become physics at this hour. The most welcome thing curves the path of everything that approaches. Stillness, motion. You appear still. The room moves through time with you, not metaphorically, literally, certainty, mystery. You know enough to relax, and what you don't know volunteers to stand watch in the hall. Clock lullaby. The count remains, the song remains, and because both remain, you can allow yourself to fall below them like a stone settling through velvet. Even the fall is not fall. It is placing. The bed learns your outline and keeps it. The outline learns the bed and releases its old negotiations. Imagine your hands cupped again over your abdomen, not touching, only suggesting shape. Your palms are two moons, teaching the tide where to go. The tide is your breathing. It listens. It has always listened. You are merely noticing the lesson it keeps teaching itself. Teaching without teaching is the style of all good halos. They keep room so well that you forget room ever needed to be kept. Forgetting is the compliment you pay competence. Bring the great crossing back for one last glance, softer than a blink. In the far field, what was visible has cooled. What was invisible never needed cooling. Momentum without heat is a mercy at night. You can borrow it. You can let your thought mist cool while the deeper frame keeps moving you towards sleep, like a train you boarded long before you remembered buying the ticket. You need not show it to the conductor. The conductor is you, farther in, older, quieter. Now return to the easiest ritual. Lengthen the leaving side of your breath by a fingertip. Not a count, a feeling. Let the exhale pour rather than fall. Pouring is how liquids remember they have a destination, even when you are not watching the cup. When the leaving pours, the staying deepens. The halo you sleep inside brightens by becoming less bright. Glow turning ember, ember turning warmth, distributed through the whole room, everywhere, and so nowhere to chase. If a thought insists, it must be carried to morning. Let the bowl keep it. You can claim it under daylight if it is still yours. Halos are storage with no sharp corners. Write one word for it on the inside of your breath, and then let the letters drift apart until they become the same mist that once slowed, now cooling, now harmless. You did not erase. You redistributed. The skeleton glides on. You glide with it. A soft rehearsal for the refrain ahead approaches you like a familiar footstep in the hallway. You are held by what you cannot see. Say it without sound and feel how the line fits into the architecture you've been living all night. The ribs nod. The bowl agrees. The lattice above the roof echoes back its yes. You don't have to believe hard. The sentence believes for you. You only have to let it stay. The room's faint instruments continue their patience, fan like far surf, a line of hum like a horizon drawn by a steady hand. These are your local halos again, singing the low part so your breathing can sing the melody without strain. Underneath everything is a competence you do not need to supervise. The night keeps its promises whether or not you are awake to witness the keeping. That is what makes it safe to sleep. Safety that doesn't clock out. Overlay one more time, the two slides until edges dissolve. Roofline into sky lattice, lattice into ribcage, ribcage into bowl, bowl into breath, breath into hush. The macro rests on the micro like a hand on a heartbeat. The micro rests on the macro like a bird on a pressure. The air was already planning. Nothing extra, just fit. Fit is the lullaby you were listening for without knowing its name. And because every soft peak deserves a softer descent, let the mind step back and let the mantra step forward. You are held by what you cannot see. The sentence is a pillow you set beneath tonight and also beneath the nights that will follow. You can return to it as easily as your breath returns to itself. You can trust it as easily as the galaxies trust their bowls. This is not effort. This is recognition. Recognition is the speed of rest. Now let the last lines of this valley trail into the next field. No turn, only continuation. The halo will keep doing what halos do while words grow fewer and spacing grows wider. You can take the sentence with you the way you take a small light into a large room and find you needed less of it than you thought. The room was already kind. The frame was already there. You were already inside it. Rest. And when a whisper asks for a name, give it the one that fits all directions at once. Held. You are held by what you cannot see. Let the line arrive like a tide that remembers your shoreline. My whisper speaks at once. Your breath answers it twice. In, the words find room. Out, the room remains. You are held by what you cannot see. Again, slower. The sentence settles under your ribs, the way a low note settles into the wood of an old instrument. You do not need to try. You only need to let the note keep ringing. Not fiction, but truth. Not noise, but note. Not chaos, but choreography. You are held by what you cannot see. You walk your familiar inner gallery, the moon-dark shoreline where your footprints fill and vanish. Lift, smooth, gone. The lesson is curve, not command. The ocean holds without showing its hands. The line follows you there and lays a small lantern on the wet sand. You are held by what you cannot see. You visit the lantern in your chest. Each inhale brightens, silver, blue, or gold. Each exhale lets it become an ember that refuses to go out. The ribs keep the bowl keeps the room keeps the breath, and the breath keeps the line. You are held by what you cannot see. Now the tiny capsule, thimble small, the window fogs and clears with each exhale. You travel by welcome, not by will. The river that is not water carries you between lanterns you do not count. The sentence becomes your navigation, softer than a compass, truer than a schedule. You are held by what you cannot see, not gripping, but giving, not striving, but staying, not proving, but belonging. You are held by what you cannot see. Let the words shorten until they are mostly breath, are held. The mouth barely moves. The chest understands. You are practicing a call and response with your own calm. One whisper, one breath. One whisper, one breath. The rhythm is older than clocks, kinder than checklists, closer than thought. Maybe the dark is not empty. Maybe it's a kindness that prefers quiet. You don't argue. You listen. The shoreline agrees. The lantern agrees. The capsule agrees. Agreement is the softest power you will use tonight. River, fabric, cello note. 3 stones in the pocket of your attention. River when you need motion without command. Fabric when you need strength that looks like welcome. Cello note when you need order that hums instead of shouts. Touch each stone with a breath. 1, 2, 3. Feel how the line threads them. You are held by what you cannot see. Let the antithesis steady you like a handrail in the dark. Not fear, but hush. Not ticking, but flowing. Not edge, but curve. You are held by what you cannot see. If a thought arrives with sharp corners, set it near the shoreline and watch the water round it. If a memory knocks with old urgency, place it beside the lantern and let the ember light it gently until it stops insisting. If a plan paces the capsule aisle, let the window fog and clear until the pacing learns to sway. Every arrival is permission to repeat the line. You are held by what you cannot see. You do not chant, you breathe. The difference matters. Chanting can climb, breathing descends. Chanting can tighten, breathing loosens. Let the sentence be a feather on the surface of the exhale. You are held by what you cannot see. Now taste the triplets again, quieter, like footfalls growing softer down a hallway you trust. Not fiction, but truth. Not noise, but note. Not chaos, but choreography. You are held by what you cannot see. The mind tries once to measure, then remembers it is bedtime, not blackboard. It trades counting for cadence. It trades proof for presence. It trades effort for echo. Every trade leaves you richer in rest. You are held by what you cannot see. Let your jaw forget its name. Let your shoulders forget their post. Let your tongue rest like a small leaf. Each surrender makes more room for the line to lie down in you. Room is what the sentence has been asking for all along. And now a small pattern you can trust. Whisper, breath, silence. Whisper, breath, silence. The silence is the part doing most of the work. You do not need to supervise it. Sleep is the artisan here. You are only the room where it lays out its tools. You are held by what you cannot see. When the inner gallery feels full enough to wander without effort, shoreline, lantern, capsule, let the lights dim a little and keep only the contours. The sea becomes sound, the ember becomes warmth, the window becomes rhythm. The sentence threads them like beads, so the necklace will not slip when dreams begin to walk. You are held by what you cannot see. Stay here, not moving, but being moved, not deciding, but being decided for by the oldest kindness you know. When in doubt, give the breath the lead and let the words follow 2 steps behind. You are held by what you cannot see. You are held by what you cannot see. Let the line arrive on the inhale and leave its echo on the exhale. Let the echo be the part that does the keeping. You do not have to remember it. It remembers you. You are held by what you cannot see. Not gripping, but giving. Not striving, but staying. Not proving, but belonging. You are held by what you cannot see. Breathe the shoreline back until it is only rhythm. Waves without pictures. A sound your body translates into smoothness. The line floats there like a small buoy that never drifts far. You are held by what you cannot see. Bring the lantern chest to mind only as warmth. The color chooses you. Silver, blue, or gold. The bowl of ribs widens and keeps. The sentence curls inside that kept room, as if it were written to live there. You are held by what you cannot see. The capsule returns as pulse. Fog, clear, fog, clear. The window is only your breath learning its own handwriting. Each repetition is gentler than the last. Each gentleness is a proof that needs no witness. You are held by what you cannot see, river, fabric, cello note. Let them hum beneath the words, river, motion without command, fabric, strength that looks like welcome, cello note, order that soothes instead of scolding. 3 quiet pillars under 1 soft roof. Maybe the dark is not empty. Maybe it's a kindness that prefers quiet. Listen to how the body nods before the mind agrees. The nod is enough. Agreement can be smaller than thought and still be true. You are held by what you cannot see. Let the triplets become softer footsteps. Not fear, but hush. Not ticking, but flowing. Not edge, but curve. You are held by what you cannot see. If a sentence of worry begins to write itself across your inner sky, place the line beneath it like a page that doesn't bleed through. The letters soften. The ink becomes breath. The story waits for morning. Night is allowed to be about carrying, not concluding. Now rest here. Listen for the faintest sound. Maybe the fan. Maybe your pulse. Maybe the night itself breathing. In, 2, out, slow. Subscribe if you'd like more quiet nights, only if it helps your rest. And breathe. In, 2, out, slow. You are held by what you cannot see. Do nothing with the thought that just arrived. Let it sit where the tide will reach it. The tide is dependable. The tide knows every rock by touch and still refuses to hurry. Your patience is borrowed from that older patience. Borrowing is allowed. Tonight it is encouraged. Which word rests easier for you tonight? Held, carried, or threaded? Choose the one that slows your shoulders. Let the other 2 drift like friendly boats you can visit later. One word is enough to be a pillow. You are held by what you cannot see. Notice the tiny continuity between breaths, the seam where the leaving becomes the arriving. Seams are where the world shows you how it keeps itself together. You do not have to stitch anything. The thread is already passing through. Your job is to feel the fabric and say yes. Yes is lighter than effort and heavier than doubt. Perfect weight for sleep. Not fiction, but truth. Not noise, but note. Not chaos, but choreography. You are held by what you cannot see. Let the sentence shorten again until it's almost only air. Held, carried, threaded. Whichever word you chose, let it repeat until repetition becomes background, and background becomes kindness, and kindness becomes the climate of the room. Climates work because they keep being themselves. You are learning to live inside a climate called ease. You are held by what you cannot see. Set your attention on the place where the inhale begins, as if you were watching the horizon invent a dawn. Then set it on the place where the exhale ends, as if you were listening for quiet to choose its favorite depth. Between these two is the life of the line. It lives there because that is where you are most available to be kept. Maybe the dark is not empty. Maybe it's the space that lets the light arrange itself into kindness. You are held by what you cannot see. If a number wants to count, let it count breaths and stop at 3. 1, river. 2, fabric. 3, note. Then let counting go back to sleep. You will keep the feeling without the tally. Feelings have better memories than numbers at this hour. You are held by what you cannot see. And if you forget the words entirely for a few moments, that is the success of the practice, not its failure. Forgetting is how the line moves from the mouth to the marrow, from the ear to the air between each rib. When you remember again, it will be there, unwrinkled precisely where you left it, holding the place for you like a chair saved by a friend's coat. You are held by what you cannot see. You are held by what you cannot see. Let the words fold smaller until they feel like warmth more than sound. Let warmth spread the way tea does in a quiet chest. Your breath travels the room you made for it and remembers every corner. You do not lead, you accompany. You are held by what you cannot see, not edge, but curve, not burden, but bearing, not pressure, but presence. You are held by what you cannot see. Walk the inner gallery once more, slower than thought. Shoreline becomes rhythm, rhythm becomes hush, lantern becomes color, color becomes warmth, capsule becomes pulse, pulse becomes yes. Each image dissolves into its simplest feeling, and the feeling threads itself into the line. River, fabric, cello note. The river moves you without orders. The fabric holds you by giving way. The cello note arranges you from the inside. 3 companions, 1 mercy. You are held by what you cannot see. If rest hesitates on the threshold, offer it the smallest welcome. An exhale 1 breath longer, a jaw 1 finger looser, a brow 1 thought lighter. These are doors that open without hinges. Every opening is an answer to the sentence that keeps returning. You are held by what you cannot see. Maybe the dark is not empty. Maybe it stores the room for everything that needs a place. Maybe it is the pause that lets the music make sense. You do not have to agree out loud. The body nods for you, and the nod is enough. Not fiction, but truth. Not noise, but note. Not chaos, but choreography. You are held by what you cannot see. Let forgetting begin its good work. Let the mind misplace a corner and discover that the shape holds anyway. Let the breath lead while the words ride along in the back seat, drowsy and content. You are not falling behind. You are being carried forward by a rhythm older than hurry. If a small restlessness pricks, set it in the palm of the line and feel how quickly points lose their sharpness when surrounded by room. Room is a solvent for corners. Room is what the sentence makes wherever it goes. You are held by what you cannot see. Feel the seam between breaths widen into a soft field. Here, the inhale is a guest. The exhale is a host. The pause is the long hallway between them. Walking that hallway is what you're doing now. Heel, toe, rise, fall, arrive, release. Nothing to bring, nothing to carry out. River, fabric, cello note. Touch each with the lightest attention. The river says, float. The fabric says, soften. The note says, stay in tune. Together they hum beneath the mantra until the mantra is mostly hum. You are held by what you cannot see. The triplets come once more and take off their shoes at the door. Not fear, but hush. Not ticking, but flowing. Not edge, but curve. You are held by what you cannot see. Let the sentence move to the place behind your sternum, where intentions go to become habit. Let it live there the way breath lives there. A quiet tenant that pays its rent in steadiness. You will find it tomorrow with less effort, because it chose you tonight without ceremony. If your chosen word, held, or carried, or threaded, wants one last turn around the room, let it trace the baseboards and return to your side like a calm animal. It will curl up where the ribs keep their bowl and sleep there while you do. You are held by what you cannot see. The attention that still listens can soften one notch more. The ears hear the smallest sound and call it friendly. The skin hears the temperature and calls it kind. The bones hear the low instrument of the room and call it safe. Safety is the permission slip for sleep. Sleep signs its name in the blank space you've made for it. Not gripping, but giving. Not striving, but staying. Not proving, but belonging. You are held by what you cannot see. Say it with your breath once more. Softer. You are held by what you cannot see. You are not still. Even now, you move through time. Not metaphorically, literally. The bed drifts with the world. The world drifts through a wider room, and your breath rides that room the way a small boat rides a tide it did not have to name. The clock near you doesn't tick. It flows. The heartbeat doesn't pound. It keeps. The air doesn't push. It arrives. The motion that carries you asks nothing of you but presence. Presence is enough. What holds the light when light can't hold itself? The shaped path around the unseen, the curve that offers, the bowl that keeps, the welcome that does not grab. And tonight that same kindness is your map. Sleep is your ship. Dark matter is the quiet map. You do not steer with effort. You drift by trust, not fiction, but truth. Not noise, but note. Not chaos, but choreography. Return to the shoreline you learned by breath. The sea writes you in and smooths you out. Your footprints fill and vanish, not as erasure, but as care. The shoreline holds the shells. It always has. You carried that lesson back into the room and found it waiting inside your ribs. The lantern in your chest brightens, then becomes ember, then brightens again. Your rib cage is a halo, a bowl of quiet around a small sun. Inhale, room widens. Exhale, room remains. The web holds the lanterns. The room holds you. The capsule comes home as a pulse rather than a picture. Fog clear, fog clear. The window was always a window into breathing. You traveled by welcome, not by will. You still do? That is the recognition this crest is for. You already live this truth. You have been carried by curves your whole life. Paths shaped by safety, softened by kindness, widened by patience. When you notice, you don't wake. You deepen, not striving but staying, not gripping but giving, not proving but belonging. Now place attention in the small, still lake behind your sternum. There, cool at the edges, warm where the lantern sets its round reflection. Thoughts arrive at the shoreline of that lake and bend around it the way light curves around a gentle hill. They don't need to be stopped. They need only to be shown the shape that's already there. This is non-judgmental lensing. The path persuades more than force ever could. Your own calm becomes the geography thoughts prefer to travel. You feel them arc, soften, lengthen, and pass. Certainty and mystery sit together like patient elders. Certainty says, you are breathing, you are here, you are safe. Mystery says, and there is more holding you than you will ever have to name. Stillness and motion braid in your body. You lie, and yet you move. You move, and yet you rest. Clock and lullaby share the same throat. One counts the gentle, the other makes it gentler. You listen, close in, clock whisper, breath drift, heartbeat metronome. You are being counted by quiet rather than examined by noise. So you are free to be counted as whole before you fall wholly asleep. The quiet that counts you is not a judge. It is a witness. The witness is kind. Kindness is a gravity of its own. You lean, and leaning is enough. The open loop you carried from the first lantern of the night closes without shutting. What holds the light when light can't hold itself? The room that curves around it. What holds you when you can't hold yourself? The same. The halo in your chest, the web above the roof, the mattress that remembers your shape, the patience you forgot you practiced. the unseen scaffold that does not ask to be seen to keep being itself. Feel how the body knows this before the mind signs the form. The jaw unhooks another notch. The shoulders lower a whisper. The breath writes a longer line. Recognition is a muscle with no effort in it. It simply nods, and the door opens. Not edge, but curve. Not burden, but bearing. Not pressure, but presence. And because the night speaks best in small questions, one arrives without urgency and with full permission to skip. If the night holds the galaxies, can it hold your worries until morning? You don't have to answer. You can hand the question to the lake behind your sternum and watch the surface receive it. A circle widens, and then the lake is only lake again. The worry is not erased. It is scheduled for daylight. Rescheduling is a form of mercy. You are not still. Even now, you move through time. And because you move through time, you don't have to move through trouble. Trouble can be carried past you by the current you are already riding. You are allowed to be the passenger of kindness. You are allowed to let the map do the mapping, while the ship does the drifting, while you do the breathing. Choose to notice one more echo from the road you've traveled tonight. Shoreline, capsule, bedside lamp. 3 stations now lit with warmer color and slower cadence. The shoreline holds the shells. The web holds the lanterns. The room holds you. Say it only inside your chest so the body can nod again. And if words are heavy, keep only the feeling. Held. You are not still. Even now, you move through time. The motion is generous, so you don't have to be. Let it do the carrying. You ride inside a kindness you did not have to build. Your only craft tonight is noticing, lightly, briefly, then letting noticing dissolve back into warmth. The shoreline returns with its patient arithmetic. Lift, smooth, vanish. You learned there that a path can guide without gripping, that water shapes sand the way calm shapes thought. The shoreline holds the shells. You feel that same shaping at the small lake behind your sternum. Thoughts arrive. Bow to the curve and take the easier route. Not obedience, but preference. Not pressure, but presence. Not edge, but curve. The capsule hums again, only as pulse. Fog clear. Fog clear. The window's circle is a lens you didn't have to polish. It simply shows you your own rhythm, and rhythm is the quietest proof. You are already doing what you thought required instruction. You are always a passenger of welcome. You do not steer to be safe. You are safe, so steering becomes a sway. The bedside lamp is a quieter star now, not glare, but glow. You understand that brightness doesn't need to shout to be true. You understand that the web above the roof is doing its work whether eyes are open or not. The web holds the lanterns. The room holds you. Belonging doesn't argue. It settles. The mattress remembers you. You remember the remembering. Recognition spreads through the body like tea through a cup that was already warm. River, fabric, cello note. Say them the way you might name friends on a walk home. River, movement that keeps its promises. Fabric, softness that keeps its strength. Cello note, order that keeps its tenderness. Each is a different door into the same room. You step through whichever opens gently and find yourself in the familiar interior of ease. No introductions needed. The furniture knows where it lives. You may feel small hesitations bubble up like carbonated thoughts. What about tomorrow? What about the thing left undone? What about? You set each bubble on the lake and watch it round the surface, shimmer once and pass into the clear. The lake is good at this. Judgment is not invited. Gravity is. The gravity here is kindness, an attraction toward rest so steady it becomes the definition of down. Down is where softness gathers. Down is where you are going. Maybe the dark is not empty. Maybe it is the pantry where the room stores enough silence to feed you through the night. Maybe it is the choir that sings the note you feel in your ribs. Maybe it is the closet where the universe keeps its gentlest scaffolding. You don't have to choose a metaphor. You can let them all keep house together. Each time you open one, you find the same sentence folded neatly on the shelf. You already live this truth. Not fiction, but truth. Not noise, but note. Not chaos, but choreography. Your steady center doesn't live in performance. It lives in posture, jaw unhooked, shoulders lowered, belly soft, breath lengthened on the leaving. These are permissions, not tasks. Permissions make room. Room makes rest. Rest makes morning kinder when it arrives. You are composing tomorrow's mercy with tonight's exhale. That is how clocks become lullabies, by keeping time for kindness instead of urgency. You return to the open loop, not to pry, but to feel how it closes without force. What holds the light when light can't hold itself? You know now, shape does, bowl does, welcome does. And when holding is shaped instead of clenched, motion can keep its grace. Your thoughts feel this and decide, without words, to trust the curve. Circles are gentler than corners. Circles are how the night says stay, without asking you to stop moving. If the night holds the galaxies, can it hold your worries until morning? You don't need to answer twice. The first yes was in the breath. The second yes can be silence. Silence is an answer the night understands perfectly. It files the worry in a drawer labeled daylight, and the drawer closes itself. The sound it makes is the sound of relief. You are not still. Even now, you move through time. Your ship is sleep. Your map is quiet. Your compass is breath. The stars are your habits of kindness. The harbor is the small still lake behind your sternum. You arrive by staying. Arrival is what staying feels like when you notice it. Some night soon, we might listen for another music, the rhythm that makes space-time itself ring, the poetry of gravity waves, or sit with the music of pulsars, clocks that sing, but not tonight. Tonight you keep to the soft map you know by touch. Future songs can wait on the nightstand like books you are glad to own and not ready to open. Curiosity is sweeter when it is patient. Patience is the flavor of rest. Certainty seeks mystery. Stillness souts motion. Clock is lullaby. Let the pairs drift around you like constellations of meaning that don't require names. You travel beneath them the way a river travels under stars, moving, kept, unhurried. Nothing to prove, everything to feel. You already live this truth. Tonight is practice in recognizing it sooner, so you can rest longer inside it. And if one last check-in helps the body feel counted, bring your hand to the lamp of your chest, feel the bowl widens and remain, and whisper inwardly a simple inventory. Breathing, here, safe. These 3 words weigh just enough to matter, and not enough to trouble the water. You have learned what you needed to learn, and forgotten what you didn't. Forgetting is a friend at this hour. You are not still. Even now, you move through time. The movement is the cradle. You don't have to rock yourself. You can be rocked. The clock nearby is not ticking, but flowing. The breath in you is not pushing, but arriving. The heart is not insisting, but keeping. The world is not demanding, but carrying. What holds the light when light can't hold itself? You know the answer in posture now, not in proofs. The shaped path around the unseen, the curve that says here, the bowl that says stay, the welcome that remembers to keep its welcome. Your night has taken that shape. Your thoughts trace its edges and become softer for having followed a kind geometry. The room has become a map by being patient, not by being bright. Sleep is your ship. Quiet is your compass. The web is the coastline you don't have to see to trust. Walk the 3 stations one last time, slower, warmer, shoreline, capsule, bedside lamp. The shoreline holds the shells. You feel its cadence in the ankles of your attention. Lift, smooth, vanish, thoughts rounded by tide instead of argued into silence. The capsule hums, fog clear, breath writing its small circle and erasing it not to remove, but to renew, travel by welcome, not by will. The bedside lamp glows low, no glare, only guidance, reminding you how brightness can be merciful when it learns to dim. The web holds the lanterns. The room holds you. Bring the hand to the small still lake behind your sternum. There is the center, cool at the rim, warm at the middle, quiet all the way through. Let arrivals skim and arc. Let departures pass without ceremony. The lake does not keep what is not water. It offers a curve, and the curve does the kindness. This is lensing for the heart, non-judgmental, precise, soft. You are not policing thought. You are shaping its path by being a place worth traveling around. Certainty, mystery. You keep 3 simple facts, breathing here, safe, and let everything else be the larger room that watches the door. Stillness, motion. Your body rests while the world moves you forward like a train through friendly country. Clock, lullaby. Time counts. Song soothes. Together they make a cradle that doesn't squeak. Not fiction, but truth. Not noise, but note. Not chaos, but choreography. You already live this truth. You lived it at the shore when the ocean revised your footsteps into calm. You lived it in the capsule when the window taught your lungs their script. You live it now in the bed that remembers your outline and returns it without being asked. Recognition, not instruction. Remembering, not effort. Permission, not performance. If a worry lingers at the edge like a traveler who missed the last bus, point it toward the night's depot. The schedule reads, held until morning. The bench there is a bowl made of hours. It will sit and cool beside the other small passengers. Keys, plans, lists, until daylight opens its doors. You can come back if you still need it. Many worries forget they were yours by then. Forgetting is a service the dark quietly provides. Maybe the dark is not empty. Maybe it is storage for kindness. Maybe it is breath's backstage. Maybe it is the pantry where silence keeps its loaves. You do not need to choose. Metaphors are neighbors here. They share walls and lend each other spices. Each one says the same sentence in its own flavor. You belong to a keeping larger than your name. You are counted by quiet. You are carried by curve. Let the mantra you learned settle under everything like a foundation. You don't have to look at to trust. You are held by what you cannot see. Say it once with breath and once with only warmth. Let the second saying be the longer one. Warmth keeps better than words. Warmth is the body's memory of meaning. The river, some fabric, cello note are waiting by the door in case you want traveling companions for the last few steps into sleep. The river promises motion without command. The fabric promises strength that looks like welcome. The cello note promises order that hums instead of scolds. You can take one, or all, or none. Choice is a lullaby when the options are all gentle. And now, before the lights and language dim, choose an image to carry into sleep. Web, halo, or shoreline. Choose the one that loosens your jaw by a breath, that lowers your shoulders by a whisper, that warms the lake behind your sternum by a degree. Tuck it in the small pocket beside your next exhale. It will travel with you the way a smooth stone travels in a coat, present, quiet, reassuring whenever the hand remembers to touch it. You are not still. Even now, you move through time. You are moving the easy way now, aligned with what keeps. You will cross the last small distance with the lights set low and the map already memorized by the body. The room knows the route. The breath knows the turn. The heart knows the stop, where words step off and warmth rides on. Say the line once more, softer than a thought. You are held by what you cannot see, and let the ship drift, and let the map glow, and let the harbor be here because it is. Return to the beginning, as if it were a shore you loved. The pillow is cool again against your cheek. The night air moves like a patient tide along the edge of your face. The cotton rustles the way grasses do when wind decides to be kind. Nothing new to fetch, only what was always here. Steadier now because you have learned the names your body prefers. Web above, halo around, curve within. Your lantern of breath glows under the blanket. Not loud, not large, exact. Each inhale brightens it, soft as a promise kept. Each exhale lets it rest back into ember, certain it will be asked for again and happy to wait. Silver, blue, or gold. Choose with feeling rather than words. Let the color choose you if choosing is heavy. The glow is small on purpose so it can be close. Closeness is what light is for at this hour. Above the roof, the quiet web continues its unremarkable miracle. Threads crossing threads the way kindness crosses time. Unannounced, timely. Where lines meet, lanterns linger, and the whole arrangement looks like frost that decided to warm itself. You do not have to see it. You recognize its steadiness by the way you are breathing. When you breathe like this, you are echoing the shape of something too large to fail you. The web does the lifting. You do the leaning. Leaning is enough. Around your chest, the halo keeps the room it made, a bowl of quiet around the small bright. Inhale, and the bowl widens without strain. Exhale, and it remembers to keep space. This remembering is the essence of care. The body is fluent in it now. The night is fluent in it always. The more you notice, the less you need to name. Muscles understand faster than vocabulary, so you let them speak with their loosening. Jaw unhooked, shoulders let down, the long line of breath that doesn't ask permission to be longer. Within the mind, the gentle lensing continues to turn sharp corners into arcs. Thoughts arrive like travelers, see the low hill of your calm, and take the smoother route around it. No argument, no courtroom, just geography. Not ticking, but flowing. The clock whispers, and you believe it because the clock has learned to whisper to match the room. The heartbeat keeps the measure, the way a metronome keeps a lullaby from wandering too far from itself. The trio, clock, breath, heart, has learned to make the same sentence in 3 accents. You are already being kept. Say the line without moving your mouth. You are held by what you cannot see. Feel how it lands differently now that the night has drawn you maps. Above the roof, quiet web. Around your chest, quiet halo. Within the mind, quiet curve. The same kindness at 3 distances. Same posture, same result. Nothing flies apart. You do not have to keep everything together to be kept. The keeping is older than you and practiced. You are allowed to be the one who rests, while the practiced world does what it is good at. The shoreline you walked earlier returns, not as picture, but as cadence. Lift, smooth, vanish. A trio that matches breath, heart, hush. You learned there that erasure can be care, that footprints filled by tide are not lost. They are loved. The room repeats the lesson in cotton and air. Every small movement you make is greeted and then gently forgotten. The mattress knows how to forgive. It has been forgiving all night. You are forgiven simply for being heavy where you are heavy. You are invited to be light where you can be light. The capsule returns as rhythm. Fog clear, window writing that taught you how to hear your own breathing from the outside. Now you hear it from the inside, and the room hears it with you. Together you agree on the speed of the drift. The agreement is the map. Sleep is the ship. Nothing more to arrange. The tide already knows your name and your route, and it is pleased to see you keep to its kindness without checking for proof. Touch the sheet with your fingertips and recognize the old teacher, fabric that holds by giving. The weave does not resist. It receives. You are not pushed back into shape. You are remembered into it. The remembered shape is softer than the one you carried at noon. Noon has its angles. Midnight has its curves. You have come far enough to prefer curves. The world prefers them too. That is why it keeps so much of itself together, by bending rather than breaking. The line returns, quieter, deeper, belonging more to breath than to sound. You are held by what you cannot see. Not fiction, but truth. Not noise, but note. Not chaos, but choreography. The antithesis triplets feel less like argument now, and more like hammers that finish their work and are cooling on a bench. The house stands, you live inside it. The tools can rest. You can too. If part of you still checks whether there is more to learn, offer it one last tiny fact delivered as warmth. The quiet did not arrive tonight because you deserved it. It arrived because that is what the quiet does. You met it halfway by noticing. Noticing is the smallest labor and the greatest courtesy. It makes teachers of everything. The pillow's edge is the low appliance hum, the way night air remembers the skin it passes. All of them willing to say the same thing over and over until it becomes you. Kept, kept, kept. Bring the roofline into the room with a thought and set it gently above your chest like a second ceiling inside your body. Above that ceiling, the lattice. Under that ceiling, the bowl. Within the bowl, the lantern. 3 layers of the same kindness. You are lying in the place where they overlap. Head to pillow, breath to hush, body to bed. Overlap is sanctuary. Sanctuary is what makes words unnecessary. You can let words loosen now without losing anything you meant to keep. If the mind wants a final picture to file this night under, give it the simplest. Lantern under blanket, glowing low. The color you chose earlier rests in it like a secret kept by a friend. Silver when calm feels like moon water. Blue when calm feels like deep. Gold when calm feels like hearth. The lantern does not promise to be bright. It promises to be there. Being there is the real promise. The rest is weather. And if attention drifts before the next line arrives, that is the point. The voice can become a shoreline you recognize without needing to follow every grain of sand. You can let it recede and trust that it will still be a coast you wake up beside. When you slip under, you are not leaving the story. You are walking farther into it. The quiet counts you even when you are not counting yourself. It has been counting you all along. Let the circle tighten one gentle notch. Beginning meets, ending like 2 palms closing around a cup of warmth. The pillow stays cool, an anchor you don't have to grip. The night air keeps the edges of your face. The cotton answers the smallest shift with that soft, familiar hush. Ordinary textures promoted to guardians by the way you notice them. Above, the web continues. Not busy, just competent. Crossings bright enough to say here, dim enough to stay kind. The knowledge is not loud, but it steadies the hand that holds your breath. Around, the halo continues. A bowl that widens and remains. An architecture that keeps its promise without reminders. Within, the lens continues. Thoughts round their corners, because there is a hill worth circling. Geography instead of verdict. Ease instead of argument. You do nothing new. The night reuses what worked. This is grace disguised as efficiency. The same line, placed where you can lean. You are held by what you cannot see. Let it pass through once as sound and once as warmth. The second way lasts longer. Warmth lingers in wood. Words evaporate. Choose the kind that lingers. You think of the shoreline once, only long enough to remember that being smoothed is not being erased. You think of the capsule once, only long enough to remember that travel can be welcome instead of will. You think of the bedside lamp once, only long enough to remember that brightness can be merciful when it learns to dim. These memories do not ask to be seen again tonight. They ask to be felt as a climate, and the climate has set in, kept, kept, kept. If the mind reaches for a lever, place in its palm a single permission instead. If you slip under, that's the point. Relief spreads like a tide through muscles that were waiting for instruction. The instruction is disappearance. The job is to be carried. The pay is mourning. You accept, and acceptance removes the last reason to check for reasons. The clock flows, the room hums, the heart keeps. 3 instruments in the lowest register, tuned to the same note. You are not the conductor, you are the listener who fell asleep in the good seats and will wake satisfied. There will be no review to write, only a blessing to keep. The world kept itself while you rested. Bring attention back to the lantern under the blanket. Silver, blue, or gold. There is no better color, only the one that loosens your jaw by a thread and lowers your shoulders by a whisper. Keep that one. Give it the last inch of the night like a key placed on a dish by the door. The house knows how to lock itself. The door knows how to be a door without being watched. You are held by what you cannot see. The web above is older than your questions. The halo around is wiser than your plans. The curve within is kinder than your self-talk needs to be. Let them apprentice your body into their ways. Older, the sequence of rest. The apprentice's task is simple. Copy the posture of the teacher until posture becomes your own. You are already halfway there. The shoulders know. The breath knows. The heart has always known. If your thoughts wander to our quiet map, the cities and times that made a constellation in the comments earlier, let them wander and return without souvenirs. It is enough to know the constellation exists. Our quiet map is growing with every night that someone answers, here now, and lets the answer soften the room. You are one point among many, and the many make the night feel nearer. Nearness is a way to be kept. Let the sentences lengthen one more shade, then shorten, a tide of language that matches the tide in you. Longer, softer, shorter, softer still. Soon the words will be more air than sound, more cadence than clause. This is not absence. It is closeness taking on its best form, silence beside you, like a friend who knows when to stop talking and stay. You are held by what you cannot see. If a last small duty taps your shoulder, slip it into the bowl that waits at the edge of your breath for morning, and feel how quickly its edges stop catching. What a good bowl does with small things is kindness itself. It keeps the shape, not the weight. The lantern glows, exact as a promise kept. Above, threads crossing, around, bowl keeping, within, curve guiding. The overlap is the place where sleep finds you. You're in that place. You are allowed to stop arriving because you have arrived. The circle closes the way twilight closes, without a seam. You arrived here by breath, and you will leave by sleep. Nothing more is asked. The pillow keeps its cool shore. The night air keeps its patient edge. The cotton keeps its hush. Familiar things doing faithful work, steadier now because you know what steadies them. Above, quiet web. Around, quiet halo. Within, quiet curve. The room has learned your rhythm and hums along. The clock flows. The heart keeps. The breath does what breath does when no one is watching. It makes a home and lives in it. There is nothing to correct. There is only warmth to distribute until everywhere feels like here. You are held by what you cannot see. Let the sentence turn into blessing and place it gently where your ribs meet. May you be kept by what keeps. May your edges be rounded by room. May your sleep be carried by curves older than clocks. May your morning remember this without effort. If this calmed you, share it with someone who needs a little awe tonight. May your night be wide and kind. Our quiet map is growing, cities and times like lanterns on a coastline. Somewhere a window answer echoes yours. Here, now, breathing. You belong to that coastline without leaving your bed. Belonging is the shortest road to rest. Your lantern of breath glows low beneath the blanket. Silver, blue, or gold. Choose without choosing. Let color be feeling. Let feeling be enough. The glow is a promise with no conditions. It does not ask you to stay awake to keep it alive. It prefers you asleep. That is how you say yes at this hour. By drifting, you are held by what you cannot see. The shoreline folds itself into rhythm. Lift, smooth, vanish. The capsule folds itself into pulse, fog, clear. The lamp folds itself into ember, near, gentle, echo upon echo. Recognition without effort. The mind loosens its last questions, as if setting down keys on a small dish. The door knows how to be a door. The house knows how to be a house. You know how to be kept. If a final thought knocks, let it sit on the porch with the others labeled for morning. The bowl will keep them. Bowls keep well. Kindness is excellent storage. Now the word's thin. This is not absence. This is companionship changing shape. Rest, drift, quieter, softer. You are held by what you cannot see. If you'd like to leave a final whisper in the comments before sleep finds you, answer only if it is effortless. What invisible thing holds you most softly? A word, a breath, a color. The voice can fade now. That is the design. If you slip under, that's the point. The web above continues. The halo around continues. The curve within continues. All practiced, all patient, all keeping you while you sleep. Your lantern of breath glows low, silver, blue, or gold. Good night.